Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on December the 11th of 2024. I am Nick with Quinn. How are you, Quinn?
I'm good, Nick. There was like a pause there for a moment, as though perhaps Nick had been taken over or even replaced by some kind of alien duplicate.
Yeah, it's tired, Nick. That's the alien duplicate that's occupying my body right now. So
Is there like a fresh-faced and powerful awake Nick who's lying dormant within you right now?
never.
Oh,
That yokai has never existed. Purely the subject of erroneous rumors on the UFO watching message boards.
If you were a cryptid, Nick, which one would you be?
Because
I think I know the answer.
Do you? I can't think of anything.
I'm
not an imaginative guy right now.
I feel like you would be...
And I've never been into cryptids, I should say.
That's fair. I think you would make a very powerful Bigfoot in that you just kind of want to be left alone and people keep bothering you and you're just like grooving past them. You're just like...
That's why I don't have a profile picture.
Yeah. Pretty much. I don't... there's, there's not a whole lot you could do on that part. I think I would be the squonk. That is some kind of crying pig beast. From my understanding, this is like a Pennsylvania unique cryptid.
Okay.
It is basically just like a tiny crying wrinkled pig. I don't think it's dangerous. I don't know if there's any cool lore to it, to my knowledge. I think it just cries.
I just did a quick search Florida cryptids to see if anything came up. Some of them are skunk ape.
Okay.
Wampus cat.
Wampus cat's a pretty good one. I enjoy a good wampus cat.
Then again, these are the automatically generated Google results. So skunk ape seems to be the most popular one, though.
Okay,
so.
Is it just a skunk that is also an ape?
I don't know. Let's see what the cryptid message boards have to say. And, there's a statue of it too.
Oh, perfect. Is it as hot as the Mothman one?
It is very not hot.
Oh, ooh.
It is.
Skunk Ape doesn't have the same marketing team as...
I'm just gonna private message this to you real quick,
okay.
And I'll put it in the Twitch chat too. It's
well, I mean,
someone's got to think it's hot just because, but
sure. You can always find somebody who thinks. I mean, I will say this. Radiant eyes. Really, like, the eyes definitely catch the attention with how painted on they are, along with the teeth.
Yeah, you can tell that this is a cryptid that goes to see their dentist very regularly.
Yes.
But it says here, often referred to as a cousin of Bigfoot. So there you go.
All right.
That might be it.
You might be the skunk ape then. Now, of course, all of this is what would happen if Dandadan took place in America, but because it takes place in Japan, they have cooler yokai to work off of. Some of which are all the ones at Dandadan real?
I don't know.
I have no idea because there's so many yokai stories that I have no idea what's fake or what's not. So like when they were like, "That's Turbo Granny," and I was like, "Is that a thing?" Fuck it. I just went along with it.
All of them certainly have the vibe of a Japanese ghost or yokai story that I have heard.
Okay.
So even if the exact examples used don't exist in the folklore. There's got to be something similar for each of them.
Gotcha. They're probably based in something and then touched up to be more fun. This is, by the way, our transition into talking about our recommendation, which is the series Dandadan, which our audience has been asking us to read for literal years now. And we finally got around to it. There is an anime that is just about to wrap up its first season, I think. I want to say like
been making waves, certainly.
Yeah, very, very popular opening, all that sort of stuff. And I caught up with everything from it. I hit a streak where I was like, damn, I'm enjoying this, and then just carried it on to the point where I was like, damn, so now I know what it's like to be caught up on this. This sucks. I want to finish this arc.
It doesn't feel like it is structured to be friendly to being caught up on. I did not get all the way caught up on it, but I got about halfway through. It did not occur to me how much of the series there is, given that it is, only about 3 years old. It's been running, since like April 2021, but it's been running almost weekly, because it's on Jump Plus. And I guess it's one of the more popular things on there. I somehow only had vaguely osmosis this series up to the point that the anime debuted.
Okay.
Because I would see it occasionally, I would see it because the archives are on the Shonen Jump service. That's where I read everything that was on here. I don't know if I'm 100%, if it's 100% caught up, but there's a lot of it on there.
I that's what I read, and I believe the newest chapter came out like last week or earlier this week. Yeah. So I think I'm caught up completely. Where they have the painting, and it looks like we're gonna get another arc in like Hokkaido or something like that.
Mm. And for those of you who are not familiar with the series already, this is oh boy, it's a modern day supernatural thriller shonen series that is not an Exorcist series. It's very close.
It is Exorcist adjacent, but the very clean delineation I think for it would be that this is much more firmly in like a sci-fi, paranormal kind of universe, whereas like other yokai stuff usually is like, here are yokai, here are swords, go ahead, or something like that. This one definitely is playing a lot to like, UFO, lizard people, like cryptids, all this sort of like, psychic stuff. Characters have telepathic powers or telekinetic powers and stuff like that. But there are characters who are explicitly exorcists. It's just not the goal of the show to move around and be like, all right, let's go fight this monster now. Usually they are stumbling kind of accidentally into all of these situations.
That's definitely the vibe for a lot of the series, because in terms of why I said it doesn't seem like it's a good thing to be caught up on, I mostly said that because this is very serial storytelling. Every chapter really leaves you on this note of, oh, well, I gotta read the next one now, because even if something's not a very deliberate cliffhanger, it flows naturally into the next chapter.
Yeah.
It's very rare that there is a note of finality at the end of a chapter that happens, where you feel like, oh, okay, the adventure is at a stopping point, I can pause for now. Even when an arc is completed, there is always a loose thread, some sort of complication that happens within the arc that you're in, where it's like, okay, well, we saved everyone from the burning building, but someone
lost their testicle.
Someone lost their testicle. There was a ghost that was trapped beneath the building that, because there was a fire, it's now set loose, and we have to go after that. There is always something that happens where there's like some sort of consequence that they have to then be like, okay, now we're dealing with this. And it's just a constant thread of motion that you're going through. So even though there's never, at least in the part that I read, a point where the heroes go, we have to do this thing. This is our mission statement. We are, coming together to do stuff. They're constantly dealing with things that are going on and addressing them one after another. So it doesn't really feel like there is a need to do something like that, where everyone stops and says, "We're the defenders," or whatever. We're gonna form a club or anything like that.
It does make it kind of clear that at some point we will get something along those lines. There's been like the threat of an alien invasion for quite a while now, and even though they deal with it in one of the arcs, there's like the lingering thing afterwards where they were like, aliens are coming to attack this planet. They just need to figure out how to not get killed by all the yokai first, basically. And it creates this very interesting thing where the characters are simultaneously realize they need to get stronger while also just asswards stumbling into every situation that they run into. Usually because people want the gifts that they have. So it's a lot of stuff on that end. I think we've kind of jumped a little forward though in discussing this series, which is we should talk about, I guess, its leads and the fact that this is a series that has a pretty significant romantic school life kind of focus as well. So our lead characters are Momo Ayase and a character called Kentaka Kora, but most characters just refer to him as Okarun because Takakura is a real-life actor that Momo Ayase has a crush on his particular type of person, like the very like stoic, badass kind of like thug person who has like a heart of gold. And Okarun has that character's name, but does not embody that whatsoever. No. He is a big dork.
He's a little dweeb.
He has like a bowl cut when we first meet him. He is a gigantic Dorcas. But these two characters who basically kind of start a relationship on like a slightly like a light antagonistic note end up being bonded by their experience, and it is very much like an element of the story that they are going to develop a relationship. Usually in each arc, there is some kind of B plot to like these two are encountering a hurdle in like whatever stage of their relationship they're in, and they need to overcome it to some degree.
Yeah, and it's also, of course, one of those types of things where, because of the nature of the plot, where they're constantly encountering obstacles one after another that feed into each other, there's not a lot of opportunity for them to stop and reflect honestly on their developing relationship, because they're constantly running around with their head trying to get a hold of things.
I will say that does eventually change.
I know.
Okay.
I did read basically like the last volume's worth of stuff just to kind of like make sure that I wasn't going to say things that are very obviously wrong in this story. Oh, it's so great. I can't wait for them to, neither of them to die.
Yeah, I'm like, Nick, you should read chapter 363.
Oh, no! There is a note where the two of them start off where Okarun is, he's being bullied because he's this loser at school, and Momo just kind of, as a cool person, like sees that he's being bullied and goes and sits next to him and just like gives like the stink eye to the people who are harassing him. But because then they sit together, they end up naturally talking about their various weird interests, and Okarun is obsessed with cryptids and aliens and sci-fi stuff, and he thinks that Roswell is real and stuff like that. And Momo's like, that's absolutely
Roswell is real, Nick. It's a real place. You can go
the Roswell incident. Okay. Anyway. And Momo is like, that's ridiculous. Anyway, spirits are real. Yeah. And the two of them end up like doing simultaneous like challenges based off of the information gathered by the other. Turns out both aliens and spirits are real. Both of them are caught in circumstances where they are attacked by aliens and spirits, and also end up either awakening or being imbued with special powers. Because of the consequences of that, Okarun loses his balls. First it's his penis, sorry. First it's his penis that he loses. And they have to defeat a spirit that they call Turbo Granny,
Yep.
because it's this old woman spirit that can run insanely fast. So she's Turbo Granny, and Okarun ends up getting like a release form where he gets her powers, and so he can move really quickly and stuff. Momo has telekinetic abilities, but it's not just that. There's a bunch of spirit manipulation powers that she has.
She has like telekinetic hands that she can manipulate. So it's essentially like telekinesis, but in the form of these like gripping hands. And then what a hand can do, she can also do. She can like squeeze things and like clutch things and stuff like that. It's somewhat interesting the way they explained as more than just plain old telekinesis.
They have a very nice relationship because they just really play off of each other well. They're a good like comedic duo, and it's sweet to see them over time because they're thrown to the fire together, grow to care for each other's safety very quickly, and then over time they start to realize that they have genuine feelings of affection and love for each other. In that, very awkward will they, won't they, teenage fashion.
Yes.
That works better in this series than I've seen in a lot of shonen adventure stories. Because I think, again, the nature of the story that it's in terms of how it's paced.
Yeah, I will say that I really, really came to like the romance in this series. Although I'm now caught up on the series and I'm in this weird state of like kind of annoyance that This
Shinatsu and Taiki were together by this point. Come on, guys.
Yeah, there's like a slight point of just like, all right, guys, enough fucking obstacles in front of these two. Just let me have a cute scene where they confess to one another. Not to spoil everything that's happened with this series, but like we kind of got that moment, and then it was like at the end of this arc, we're definitely gonna get that moment, and then like a slight inconvenience happened, and I was like,
I can't do it now.
Can't do it now. But after that arc, and then that arc fucking ended, and the situation's still the same. So I'm like, if she doesn't grow up to fucking normal size by the end of this next goddamn arc, so he can fucking confess for real.
And I understand. You don't want to confess to the girl while she is doll-sized. I get that. That's just going to be like a weird memory. But hurry the fuck up!
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's frustrating because I like these characters so much, and we haven't really talked about that.
Love Momo.
She's so cool.
She's fantastic.
She's a fun character in that the way she's introduced, again, she has this obsession with a Ken Takakura type person. But because she has an obsession with anybody even slightly resembling that, she just tends to date kind of thuggish people she can't rely on.
Right.
So she herself is like a kind of like aggressive, prickly person, but one who stands by her morals and like has a very like strong code of justice she follows. It's very, very admirable. And then once she gets powers and starts wandering into this world, she's, suddenly taking on like leadership responsibilities and this air of reverence that her family has to follow, because this is one of those weird universes where like every rule you've ever heard about like a cryptid or anything supernatural, it's real. Like, motherfucker, you better not step over broken glass or whatever. You can't do that sort of stuff. Every one of those things has to be like reverently followed. So she has this weird space of being like a teenager who doesn't want to do that shit, and then also sometimes her grandma comes into the room and is like, hey, you need to help me fucking tour Hokkaido apologizing to gods, or we're gonna get crushed by like a giant finger from space or something. Oh, looks like we may have lost Nick here for a sec. Oh, he's back.
I think I'm back. I think that my computer was trying to run something extra. So I'm trying to stop that.
It's a ghost computer, Nick.
It could be. I mean, I'm convinced that something is going on with my computer that decides, like, it's only going to stop working when I'm using Discord for a podcast.
Yes.
Like, that's the only time I ever seem to have any issues with this PC is when I need to do a podcast. There must be some sort of alert that I've got set up that's like, I'll update everything on Wednesday nights. Just everything.
Yeah.
So
just get it all started. Well, just saying that, like, yeah, Momo has, like, a very fun personality. She's very entertaining to be around. She has, like, a very, like, quick to anger attitude towards her, but, like, not like a mean way. She's not like an evil character. She's just one who's like speaks her mind very vocally, and I think it also has helped that I've listened to the dub at this point, because I definitely hear that voice actress when I read Momo's lines now. She has like a very good, strong voice for that.
She has that kind of thing that, you know, you expect a lot of shonen action adventure protagonists to have in terms of her directness, bluntness, you know, enthusiasm. But those are qualities that you typically associate with a male protagonist. And it's incredibly refreshing just to see, like, it's like, oh no, you can just do this with a female protagonist and have it not seem out of place. And then, you know, a lot of it does help that she has a strong dynamic with Okurun, who is a lot more quiet and earnest. Like, you know, he starts off as being just like this weirdo nerd that, and you kind of expect him to be like, well, let me tell you about this thing and stuff. And I feel, fortunately, they really do not play up very much his obsession with the supernatural. It will come up occasionally.
Yes.
Like when he meets an actual alien from outer space and has a chance to like learn about their culture, he's like, tell me everything. What the hell is all this? You know, tell me how many aliens are there on Earth? And of course, every alien they meet is a weirdo. Yes. So they're like, I don't fucking know. So he wants to know all this stuff, but then because he's in this position where like, okay, well, you know, I am like cursed, essentially. I am inconveniencing the people around me, including Momo, who is the first real friend that he's ever had. And of course, someone that he's got burgeoning feelings for. And so he has this sense of like, I need to be able to protect her. I need to be able to help the people around me and stuff. So he gets really serious about stuff in a very awkward way, because he'll just like, you know, sneak off to try and do training and stuff, and it's like, you don't know how to make yourself strong. You're some loser teenager. You need to listen to the people around you who know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, but Okurun is very much like a good egg. There's like a fun level of like, we know this character, but also we don't. Like, one thing that's never been brought up so far in the series, and I'm like, I can't imagine we end without addressing, is we have no idea what Okurun's home life is like whatsoever, and he is very frequently just like staying at other people's houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's like a thing where you're like, does this kid even have parents or anything like that? It has not been brought up, but it feels like there is like a lingering thing that somebody's going to be like, oh, we have to go visit Okurun's house. We're going to find out like his mom's like a spider woman or something.
He just killed them and propped them up in the closet. Oh dear.
Yeah, like I'm really waiting for something crazy to come out of it.
Well, that ship sunk. Sorry, guys.
And while we're talking about characters, I kind of want to move this into, I guess, a little bit wider of the cast, but also use this as an opportunity to explain a little bit of the structure of how this series works, in that these characters will run into a situation. They will fight some kind of weird cryptid and or alien. They will be pushed to the brink. Very frequently, a new character will come and help them, and in the process, maybe unlock or show off the spirit/yokai abilities that they have obtained at this point. Then there'll be a big feast at the end. There'll be a big eating situation.
That does happen a lot. Yeah.
And then a new arc will begin, and the character from the previous arc may or may not also be involved. So it becomes this thing where the cast keeps growing to the point where there are, I think, 7 like significant characters who like are part of like the hero group, and they just kind of flow in and out, like depending on what an arc needs. So like one arc, it might be all of them, because like this is a big serious arc, and then the next one it might be like it's gonna be Momo and Gigi, because they haven't done anything together in a while, or something like that.
Very often it'll be, I think almost every little arc features at least a third character tagging along once they start to introduce them, but it is very much a revolving door on that. And it's a nice balance. Like, for the part that I read, never felt like, oh, there's a character that's just like not been showing up very much. What the hell happened to them? It never seems like anyone gets forgotten about for very long. Even like Momo's 2 gal friends at school. They show up occasionally and get involved. They do stuff like because bad shit keeps happening at Momo's grandma's house and wrecking the place, she's like, I gotta start making some money. So she ends up getting a job, and her gal friends learn that she's going to be working at a maid cafe. So they're like, hey, Okarun, come here. You want to go? Come meet with us. Come meet with us. Go see her on her first day.
They are immediately trying to play matchmaker with these two. And it's very adorable because they are Momo's friends, so they know the type of guy she normally dates at this point. And I think they're just excited that it's not some like shithead loser anymore. And they're like, oh, this is like a nice little nerdy kid. You guys should be crazy for each other. It doesn't help that there are a frequent situations that make things between them seem more serious than they are. Because one element we have not discussed is that anytime an alien shows up, they go into a like subspace or something, or limited space. I forget the term they use for it, but essentially like a black void duplicate of where they are, so that they can have these violent, dangerous fights without like a city getting destroyed. Like once you defeat the alien, you go back to the real world. I don't want to dwell on this very long. I do think people should know about it before you get into it, which is that this series, I think, has a particular sense of humor when it comes to characters and a level of nudity to it. Yeah. I did not find it particularly, like, gross. I did not feel like this is something because characters might end up out of their clothes that this is meant to be, like, titillating. It feels like this is somebody like, Toriyama, who's just like, Goku's balls being out's kind of funny when you think about it. Like somebody who's just like, I think it's kind of funny that this stuff keeps happening. And I'm like, I'd prefer if you didn't, because it makes it a lot harder to recommend this series to people, but...
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about Dragon Ball in that sense, you can always say, look, it was 40 years ago. Standards were different back then, in terms of like what was considered like acceptable stuff. Started 3 years ago. 20. You don't have that excuse with this, and I do agree that it's not as shameless and heinous as some of the stuff that we have read.
My brain's cooked, Nick. I have read so much hero stuff that I'm like, oh, this is almost like normal in comparison,
like, It's one of those things where the level of fan service and also the level of like male gaze in the series is nothing compared to some of the stuff that we have read. But when it's combined with the weird sense of humor that is in this series, it is just a very weird obstacle. I mean, the very first chapter features Momo being stripped to her underwear by aliens that want to probe her. Like, it's very on the nose in terms of how it is portrayed. Yeah. And it's not the only time that it happens in that way.
Oh, it's almost like a 50% if an arc is going to end with a character, at least a character, either naked or in their underwear.
And, I mean, like, I do think that the amount of times where, like, a character just winds up in their underwear, it's like, okay, that's one thing. Like, there is, like, Gigi, when he goes into his evil eye form. A thing is that when he goes to the evil eye form, his clothes just explode off and he's just in briefs. Yeah. That's just a thing that happens with him. But there is an extra layer of that when it's like a girl getting her clothes ripped off in some way. And I have to talk about it because, honestly...
Go for it, because look,
it's my biggest criticism of the series.
Sure. I think this is a fair...
Very good!
This is a fair criticism, and it is very worth reiterating. Like, the most egregious part of it is in Chapter 1. So, like, similar to, like you didn't like Chainsaw Man when you first read it because it's like very abrasive. I was like, I think there's like a certain level here of people who also won't give this series a chance because they're going to read this first chapter and be like, oh, this is some like horny, weird anime thing. And you're like, it's not really. It's just dumb. It's just a dumb thing, I think.
Like, that first chapter could have been so much worse in terms of... Like I said, there's not a lot of like actual male gaze going on. It's just a matter of like, oh, this is like weirdly uncomfortably sexual for the character and they have to deal with that situation. It's not like, hey, look at how weirdly uncomfortable sexually this situation is for the character. Don't you think that's kind of hot? There just doesn't seem to be that like, hey, I made it hot for you kind of quality to it. It does seem to be, like you said, like Toriyama just thinks it's weird and funny when he does that, a lot of fan service in his story. I just have a hard time being able to say, oh, I strongly recommend this story, because as you said, that happens in chapter 1, and if someone says, oh, well, does that just like stop there? Was that just like to get the foot in the door? Well, that's as bad as it's ever gonna be, but it never fully goes away. Come back, wait, no.
Yeah, it's sort of that opposite of the Meiruko-chan pitch, where you're like, look, it's going to be really weirdly horny at the start, but I think they were just trying to get popularity to survive, and it goes away. You're like, it gets less, but it never... Characters will still frequently end up in their underwear or naked at various different points. So it doesn't really go away. It's just... I don't know how to say it, because I'm like, my brain's cooked. Like we're going to talk about a Susui series again later in this podcast, and like, it's
spoilers.
Just these things have like melted my brain to some extent. So I'm like, maybe I don't have the ability to talk about this anymore, but I just flip the page to the next one and keep going, and it usually doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, fair enough. Did you have any like you do. I know you do. Did you have any characters beyond those two that you like really connected with?
Oh,
go ahead, please.
I love so many. Mantis Shrimp, Mr. Shrimp,
Mr. Shrimp,
Pee-wee something.
I love that reveal when they're like, "What's your actual name, Mr. Shrimp?" Pee-wee, Pee. All right, see you, Mr. Shrimp.
I love it.
That's such a good joke.
It really is. This is just a big boxing shrimp guy who could turn into a mantis shrimp. He's just a silly little dad who wants to take care of his kid. And one aspect we haven't really talked about is the series is good at writing emotional, like, backstories for their characters. So you feel for Mr. Shrimp after he's an antagonist for the longest time, and then you find out his backstory, like, wow, I hope everything works out for Mr. Shrimp, and thankfully it does. This is a series with a lot of optimism, so he gets to come around and hang out. I love Mr. Shrimp. I really like Vamola, I think is her name. Her name's awful, but it's the girl with the kaiju suit. And she is so precious.
That's the point, Justice.
Oh, yeah, a little bit of another internet hiccup with Nick. Vamola, sorry. You said you just got up to that point?
I just got up to her introduction in my read-through, yeah.
Yeah, I like her a lot. She has a very fun personality once they finally get past, like, her language barrier. And she occupies a very just, like, side character role in most things, but her kaiju outfit is one adorable. To her backstory, fucking rules. It slaps. It's so cool. And 3, she's just like a big old dork who mimics Gigi a lot, who is at his best when he's just like a weird background gag character. There's just stuff where he'll sometimes like turn around and be like, I'm an axolotl. It'll just have like a big stupid face. You're just like, yeah, sure, dog. Like, whatever makes you happy, dog. I'm so happy for you, Gigi. But then the most recent character, I guess big character, I should say, that got introduced is Unji, who I love. This character is so fucking cool. Has an absolutely brutal backstory. Like, holy shit, ruthless. But not only is he a cool character with like a cool ability, his ability is to like summon umbrellas, and when he opens them, they can deal tremendous force. But he is also, I believe, a reference to an actual Ken Takakura role, and is supposed to be embodied after the same thing. And in the arc he's introduced in, there's a little bit of shipping, almost like kind of shipping energy between him and Momo. And I heard from my friend Little Dan that he was like, yeah, I think that's an intentional move to show how Momo at this point has moved past guys like him. Like, she never really reciprocates it, even though that is a guy who would 100% have been her type before. So I really love Unji a lot. Also, yes, depending on the way you say his name, it is a pun on Jumanji, and he was introduced in an arc where people get sucked into a board game. It's very cool.
Of course, you know.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
There's a whole bunch of characters. I haven't mentioned Ira, who I really, really like. You would have read a lot of her stuff. The acrobatic Silky girl.
Yeah.
She's got a
I love her energy in terms of like just the constant joke of she thinks she's the main character.
Yes.
and she'll just like tell people that I'm the hero, so just follow me.
Yeah,
Guys.
she's
my destiny.
she is constantly saying like, I am the leader of this team. And they're like, no, you're
not.
not. No one follows you.
But I do love the little hints here and there of her, growing as a person. I really like the moment where, because she is like the queen bee of the school, has a chance to, because like she starts off on really bad terms with Momo, and Momo and her are kind of constantly at odds, and she starts spreading rumors about Momo at school to try and like get one over on her after Momo embarrasses her. And then after like she has like her first adventure with the duo, she realizes, of course, Momo was not actually a bad person. And so everyone's like, oh, yeah, we know that, that Ayase girl did this to you. She's like, guys, I started the rumor.
Yeah.
Like, I did it. So don't talk about it that way. And it costs her popularity among her peers because they're like, oh, that's fucked up what you did. They turned their backs on her and she just has to deal with that. But it's not like she's immediately like, oh, I'm redeemed and sad and stuff. No, she's still this weird, I'm the main character person when she's interacting with them. It's just that that in the background, she is dealing with that insecurity and sense of isolation and not having any friends anymore.
Yeah.
It's more entertaining and more interesting than the obvious choice.
Yeah, I like her a lot. I like Turbo Granny as like a side character who was like once an antagonist and eventually like is kind of like a reluctant ally. It's always like a level of antagonism towards any help she gives, but eventually you do realize she's like got some level of affection for these people she's surrounded by so frequently. And I kind of just like that energy as well. So she's fun. I gotta mention fucking Kenta, because people will get angry if I don't. Look, if I have to get a Mineta in a story, I guess I'd want it to be this one, but I still don't like Kenta. He's very obnoxious to me. I like how they utilize his power suite in this series. Essentially, there's just an invention they realize in this universe that works like a Minecraft block. They're like, basically, whatever you imagine, it'll turn into that. And he's like a big Gundam nerd. So he like has some of these on hand and he'll just use it to make robots or like hang gliders or like weird shit like that. And I'm like, all right, that's like fun and cool. He is unfortunately like the kind of horny weirdo of the group. Basically imagine like Usopp, but also with Sanji's worst personality trait added onto it. You're like, I mean, look, I do appreciate this is a character who's going to grow and learn to overcome his like cowardice and like weakness. But I hate him and I want him to get punched in the face a lot.
I stopped at his like big introductory arc. So I haven't really developed a full opinion of him. All I can say is I know he's supposed to be funny. And I didn't really find him funny. So.
I think that's also going to be the thing too. He's not particularly our sense of humor, but it's fine. I said, like, if a series is going to have a character like him in it, I'm glad he is one like him who has like traits to grow off of and is not just like,
yeah,
I'm a weird creep, the character or whatever.
That's what I'm here for.
I think the only one I haven't really talked about is Rin, who is like the school president or something like that, or like the class president for Okarun's group. And she eventually joined. She has like a whole little backstory, and her gimmick is she has like a little floating cursed spirit with her of like her old friend who has not fully like rested and gone on yet. And this person's like, no, I can't go until you become an idol. And she's like, oh, I actually don't want to be an idol anymore. I want to write vampire snuff porn, basically.
Jesus Christ.
It's pretty close to that. Her character gimmick is that she sees Okarun when he's transformed, and she's like, oh, he's a vampire. He might ravage me, basically.
Jesus.
But the spirit will let her control gravity in exchange for singing, basically. Like, you had to be a diva, do that, or an idol. And that stuff's kind of interesting. At the point in the series I'm at, she hasn't really done anything. She was a part of the fairy tale arc, which is like the most significant recent arc. But she's like the 8th most relevant character in that arc. So she doesn't really get to do a whole lot. I assume she'll show up in like a upcoming arc and get to do more.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, I wanted to make note of, I love the way that action is drawn in this series. There is an amazing way that like movement gets captured in the artwork. Weird body poses happen and stuff, and there's always a sense of like momentum to everything. There was one particular moment that happened where it's when they're dealing with the evil eye in full, and so they're constantly running into shenanigans where Gigi is running into the Ranma 1/2 problem of, you know, cold water makes him turn into, you know, a demon that is hell-bent on killing all humans, and hot water turns him back. And so everyone's just like, you know, chilling around out eating food together. A little bit of soy sauce spills on him. Turn the page. It's a big 2-page spread of everyone head over tea kettle as he has flipped the table. And it's just, you don't see any of the setup for it. You just see the follow through from it. And that's how a lot of the art in this is. You know, Okarun's power set is based off of moving really, really fast. So you see him to, you know, just launch his body like a missile, or, you know, launch a huge kick and stuff. And there's always a sense of like damage in the aftermath of everything that feels really cool. Also, most of the time, it's a very funny series. Like, there's always this weird sense of people react to things as people normally would, but with, you know, a sense of humor in how they go about
An
it.
exaggeration,
too.
Yeah.
Momo has like a very, you know, double act kind of thing that she asks people, is like, what the fuck is going on? You know, that she has the kind of extreme but grounded reaction as well. The one thing that I will say, in addition to the fan service being weird, that I didn't really care for is, I have to say, I don't really like Seiko all that much. The grandmother.
Grandma.
I think she's just there, I feel like, and I know that she's supposed to have a certain type of weird personality that is, you know, humorous in how nonchalant she is about everything. But the only part of her that I remember liking was her introduction, when she has the thing where she goes on a TV show as like a fortune teller.
Oh, yeah.
There's the idol that she meets, and she reads the fortune. They're like, you got every detail about him wrong. You're a fraud. And then then they're watching TV later, and it comes on, and like everything that she had said about him was actually right. He's a fraud who's like older than he's saying he is. He's, you know, actually got a hidden family and stuff when he claimed he was single. And she had also said in the interview that he liked soba or something. He's like, oh, actually, I prefer ramen. And then so all this horrible bombshell stuff is dropped about his life, revealing that he's, you know, just a fraud. And she says, yeah, no, admit you like soba more. Like, she's just like really upset about that one particular point. He's like, I was right, fuck you. I liked that.
Yeah.
And she's never that funny ever again, in my opinion.
I will say, I find her good when she works off of Momo, because that's the relationship that has the most friction between them, and thus leads to like the most interesting dialogue. Like, she is very much like the caretaker for this young girl, but also like you could tell this is a contentious family where they shout at each other a whole lot. As mentioned, because these characters constantly like have their clothing exploded off of them. There's like a scene where she has to like beg for a new uniform, essentially, and her grandma's like, do this stupid impression. That's the only way I'll do it. You have to do this dumb impression and make me laugh. And you're like, it's silly, but it's a fun relationship they have. I want to move very quickly back to the art, because the art is really, really good in this series. There are a ton of just outstanding 2-page spreads. I've shared a couple in our Discord under our current recommendation area, but there's a ton of them. There's even one where it's basically like all the characters who are like significant battle characters at this point, like standing together in a line. It's very much like that Enos lobby, like all the straw hats standing on like the precipice kind of thing. So that stuff's really cool. There's a lot of really, really impressive visuals. But I don't know. I guess we should probably wrap this up because we have a whole lot of other things to discuss. I love this series. I got into a certain level of it. I actually started technically with the anime and then just jumped back and I was like, all right, I'll just read the chapters again. And I really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. And the series definitely just scratches an itch. I love supernatural, paranormal, weird stuff. And like, honestly, I'm kind of like upset in a lesser way glad this series has come into my life now as opposed to when I was a teenager. Because if I had read this when I was a teenager, I would have been insufferable about this. I would have had so many fucking OC yokai boyfriends that I self-wrote for my insert. Like, it would be insane. It would be egregious.
You would have one that's like really cool and serious normally, and then they get possessed by a yokai, and then they become very obsessive towards you, and it's like, no, I don't like that, but actually I do.
But I kind of do, actually. Yeah.
No, I don't like that. I want the guy who normally isn't into me at all to be into me.
And yeah, I of course, my characters would be derived from the squonk, as described earlier, crying powers. That feels very much in my lane. But yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this series. I will fully say right now, I don't know or think this is going to join the recap. I think some people wanted it to, but I don't know if we're going to yet. That would be a Nick decision at some point, but I will continue reading the series.
I have every intention of getting caught up at this point because I've read as much as I have, and I've definitely enjoyed it. I just, for a good chunk of the time that I was supposed to be reading this, I was dealing with other things, and then I was tired. But then when I did start reading it, I was hooked. I really liked it. It's not 100% without its flaws, but among a lot of stuff that we have read, this is very, very, very good.
Yeah.
This is very much in our general wheelhouse of shonen action adventure stuff, and it's a very good example of that. And I feel as though like this is one of those things that people are going to point to, because the thing is, like, yes, this is hot right now, but I get the sense that in just like a couple more years, this is going to be one of those things that people look on in terms of like emblematic of this very specific era of shonen action as one of the prime examples of what was going on with it.
In a weird way, as Jump has kind of remained very stagnant and its big hits have kind of come from like outside the battle manga genre as much. There's obviously, separations from that, Sakamoto Days, stuff like that. But I feel like you're almost able to create like I know Nick hates this term, but a big three.
A big three.
A big three out of this and just some like, Kaiju number 8, Chainsaw Man, or Marriagetoxin. Like all these series are just like, these things are all like in this weird space where, I don't know what to tell you. They're just good and fun and cool action series. And I totally dig it. I guess I have the veto. I just add it to the recap, right?
Oh no, I would have to get caught up so quickly. No, Quinn!
All right, guys.
No!
I'm going to use my veto in the bank to add Dandadan to the recap. In the new year.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
There you go. See, I'm a helpful person. The squonk is helpful.
Ah.
All right. Let's move on, though. We have so many manga series to talk about.
And we're starting with Undead Unluck, so that's all you.
Yeah, we're going to start with Undead Unluck number 234, Know All Along. We just got the moment of, hey, Fuko, the heart artifact is your heart. We're going to have to rip it out of you. And Andy responds to that with, okay, I'm going to do it now. And everyone's like, wait, what the fuck? She's going to die, basically. And Andy's just like,
all right, I'll put on the glove. Hang on. And gotta be nice and safe about this.
Andy just looks at him. He's like, you know this girl, right? You know she's not going to stop once she sets her mind to something. That's the only way she managed to get all you weirdos into one group is by, like, stubbornly sticking to her convictions. So, like...
He's got a very unserious expression, too, because he's doing the rock phase. Like, come on! Yeah, she wants this.
All right, guys. So, he's like, look, we're going to do everything we can. And several members of the group come in, and they're like, all right, well, we're going to use our negation abilities to basically help keep Fuko alive while you extract the heart, basically. And Andy's like, all right, you guys do whatever you need to. So they're going to get ready to do that. But Soul is like, no, fuck you. You think I'm going to sit by and watch as you try to bring her back? I'm going to send a giant laser at you.
I call hacks. No, you can't do that.
He's basically like, I'm going to shoot a giant laser at you. But before he could do that, a giant laser hits him. And Ichiko finished the custom, unavoidable, undecreased, unfeel superior buster. And three characters who all of us certainly care about are in this big gun together. I love that they're like sized, like they're like sorted by size. So it goes from like small to medium to chunkiest in the back. And they're like, hey, we're going to fire this beam. It's going to give you a little bit of relief. And they're going to start using anesthesia. Fuko asks the important question. She's like, hey, if you use anesthesia on me, how am I going to wake up afterwards? And Ichiko's just like, I can use unsleep to wake you out of it. I could do that now.
I could do that.
I'm like, cool, thanks.
It's the power I developed off panel because this is a very well-paced conclusion.
Yeah. So they're like, all right, we're going to start extracting it. And Fuko's, last words is she starts to go under. She's like, I sure am lucky, aren't I? After all, I managed to meet all these wonderful people. And then she goes...
The end.
Credits. She wakes up in a white void, and she's like, wait, did I fucking die? And Luna's there, and is like, hey, look, you didn't die, but since you are unconscious, I thought I would talk to you a little bit more about the heart.
Yeah, let me just lay things out for you, because that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
I, as Luna, need to just tell you, the reader, Fuko, what's actually been going on this whole time.
Yeah. So Luna has like a whole spiel she's going to read. She's like, I'm so impressed that you found it in your own body. And, I just think that once you realize the risks of this, I doubt even you. And Fuko's like, I kind of already figured, like, not only is there going to be a giant stroke of unluck upon extraction, but like, there's probably also some kind of cost activating heart. And Luna's like, damn, you're doing that all while aware of what's going to happen, right? And Fuko's like, well, the apocalypse is happening, so who really gives a shit? So she just says, look, how many hundreds of millions of years do you think we've been playing this broken-ass game, Miss Game Master? So Luna's like, all right, then you will sacrifice yourself to attain victory in this game, I take it. And Fuko's like, well, I had intended to, but, like, didn't you hear me? I've got luck. And we cut over to, like, what seems like a very unsuccessful operation currently going. Like, Nico's like, damn, the artificial heart isn't working. What's happening? And Luna's like, doesn't seem like it's going so great. But Fuko points out, she's like, yeah, but Mr. Rip isn't there, is he? Neither is Mr. Sean. And we cut over...
Shen.
Mr. Shen, sorry. And we cut over to a portal opening up and revealing Unknown is going to be there. And they said, hey, I'm pretty sure Fuko's unluck powers aren't leaking out from the heart and vicinity. So in this case, I'll try it from here. Let me handle the rest, Andy. And activates the artifact that basically saves time. There was a moment where they're like, how did you get moved to help you? And I'm like, the same way we always do. We just use one of our powers that make things do the things they don't want to do. So there's a moment, though, where Luna's like, well, you plan on rewinding your body's time. That would allow you to avoid the death from extraction. However, the cost that triggers upon your heart, that is something that cannot be avoided. Just as rebellion absorbed hatred and converted it into power, the heart also absorbs a certain emotion and converts it into power. The emotion known as love.
Louvet.
Louvet.
I've only ever seen it written down.
Yeah, and I don't know how to read. If you use it, then you will lose all the love you've built over this time and all the memories associated with it. And now that you're aware of the vast consequences, what will you... I'm going to use it. Fuko's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Who gives a shit?
All right.
And Andy just says, yeah. And he rips the heart out. He's like, as long as you're alive, you'll be able to make so many more memories. And Fuko takes off her anesthesia mask and is like, hell yeah. And you're like, dog, this is wild. Also, Shen got DH'd by 10 years.
Right, because of the weird artifact that they used.
Yeah. All right, Nick, give me your thoughts.
I was so confused when I was reading this chapter. I was like, what the fuck did she do? Like, there's just so much like, oh, we did this thing with this thing. You know, that thing. Remember that? Remember that thing? It was like, yeah, I guess. I don't care anymore. I'm sad.
I do think this is not perfectly handled, but I am still enjoying this. I guess I just enjoy how brazenly confident Fuko and Andy are, so that every time Luna's trying to come in with like, oh, but perhaps your hope you realized has a cost too great for you to, like, they're like, nah, fuck that. That sounds dumb. We'll make more memories. Fuck you, eat shit. And like, in my mind, all I can imagine is Fuko just like rubbing her ass into Luna's face, like, eat shit. No one likes you. You're a fucking dork. You're a big dumb dork loser.
I think as well, there is only so much that this tone can like happen where it's just constantly like, you know, the bad guys being like, oh, but what of the consequences, and all the good guys being like, we don't care. And that's just like how every conversation has gone for the last several months, which when it is they're in what seems like a completely helpless situation where, you know, like they didn't have justice and all of them were outmatched by the rules, then that attitude of defiance, that rebellious spirit, like, hey, that feels very genuine and stuff. It doesn't feel like, even though we're at the point where like, oh, the world's going to end if we don't take action here, probably because we haven't really seen any of that happening, because nothing's been happening, because they've been successfully holding off Soul's approach. It doesn't feel like there is that weight of consequences to everything. So when everyone's just like, but you'll the cost and stuff, I don't care. It's like, well, I guess that none of this matters then, because they're so completely unperturbed by it. And I, as the reader, don't have any visual evidence that shows the situation is actually dire anymore. When we're at the finale, it feels like things should be at their highest possible stakes. Fuko could be dying, and everyone's like, it's gonna be okay. And it just is. Because, you know, they decide to do open heart surgery, and at the end of the chapter, she's fine. Like, there's only so long that can be maintained without it just being farce.
Sure. We're going to have to see exactly how much longer. I think it maybe is, like, hurt as well that, like, we've never really had too many scenes of, like, Luna and Fuko having a conversation. Mm-hmm. So, like, when they do show up, it's always been this mysterious big thing, and now we've reached the end, and Fuko's just like, actually, you're not special anymore. Eat shit. You're a loser. You're a dork-ass bitch. I poop on your game. I poop on your family.
It's great to do this to the final villain of a story.
It's somewhat satisfying, but I do wish they were able to, like, land some of the other points they were going on. But we have so many series.
Remember when we shit all over Kaguya as the final villain of Naruto? Can you imagine if every single interaction they had with Kaguya was them going, "You suck. You're not actually all that scary at all."
It would have been a better improvement over what they had, to be honest.
Oh, well, fine. Let's talk about Blue Box.
Blue Box.
Chapter 176. I want to be in a relationship. Back in the day when Chinatsu and Yumika were on the same elementary school basketball team together, they were having a good time. Chinatsu made a big basket and they won the game. Yay! We see that Chinatsu was, you know, like, there in the building, but he was, like, busy working with stuff. Just a thing there. But Yumika notes, like, my parents didn't even come. Stop being upset that your dad wasn't watching the game, basically. These are all memories that Chinatsu is experiencing while she and Yumika are having one-on-one bout, you know, street basketball at that park that they encounter each other in this last chapter. Chinatsu reflects again on that conversation she had with her dad over the phone, where he said, like, hey, what are you going to do after high school? Because, like, only so many people can actually make a living playing basketball. So actually, like, think it over. And she just thinks to herself, like, look, I know my dad just sees things realistically, how they are. And I can't get by like I used to just because I enjoy something. It's not just about having fun. And at that moment, Yumika takes the ball, she shoots a shot, and she scores. And then she's like, all right, let's take a break. And Yumika says, I've always been the one who needs to call for a break. If there were one bad thing about taking time off, it's that my stamina has suffered. Which seems a little bit important, but Chinatsu notes, like, I mean, you're way better than you were before, though. You've leveled up all your skills so much. And Yumika's like, oh, I'm a natural, so that's just it. So maybe, I guess, stepping away for a bit actually did me some good. Because if I had kept going, I could have lost my passion, and I could have started hating basketball. Like that whole, oh, you don't know what you've got till it's gone kind of thing. And she says, like, you've been doing this for like 10 years, Chinatsu, and I think that, yeah, you've got perseverance, but it's because I quit for a little while that I can keep pushing through right now. And she vows, I'm going to win the Winter Cup. And again, Chinatsu looks at her and just remembers, it was great when we were on the same team. That was so nice. But she also, notes that, like, when she looks at Yumika's bag, that she's got a brochure for Nito Athletic College. And she says, like, yeah, I had a chance to play with, Nagase. And Chinatsu's like, of course I know who that is. She was a freaking Olympic delegate.
Yeah.
And Yumika says, yeah, I got a chance to practice with her the other day, and it was a ton of fun. And I would love to play basketball with her, but I cannot get a sports recommendation to go to that school. So I'm going to just try and apply and get in the normal way. Sorry. And Chinatsu's kind of like quietly stunned by this, but in her typical Chinatsu way where she doesn't really facially react, she just kind of like stares.
Eyes just get wide.
Mm-hmm. So she walks home after that meeting, and she just thinks to herself, it's almost like all that stuff just never happened. And she thinks on all the drama between her and Yumika after Yumika quit, when they ran into each other, and, Yumika had grown her hair out and had a boyfriend and was, questioning her resolve and everything.
Yeah.
And Chinatsu says, like, I'm glad that she came back to play basketball again. Really. I'm happy. But, and she just thinks about all that time that she has spent practicing her three-point shot. Gets back to Taiki's house. Yukiko is there to greet her and says, oh, dinner's almost ready. But Chinatsu says, Taiki didn't forget anything, did he? And Yukiko's like, what are you talking about? Chinatsu starts to say, like, oh, never mind. And then she says, oh, yeah, he forgot his sweats. You should take them to him. And gives her a bag.
It's a very cute moment of just like, hey, Taiki didn't forget anything. I'm like, huh? Oh, you know what? He did. He forgot his It's like, oh, she picked up exactly what she was putting down. It's adorable. I love those moments.
So Chinatsu rushes off to go and give Taiki the things he forgot. And while she's doing,
drop his sweats off. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
That sounds way dirtier. She again says, like, look, I'm happy that Yumika's playing basketball, but we lost the Nationals qualifiers, and seeing her enjoying herself like she used to makes me wonder, what if we lose again? Gets to Taiki, and he's like, what are you doing here? And she says, oh, you forgot this. And he says, oh, that could have waited. Chinatsu thinks about all the practice that she's been putting in over years and years, all that she went through to stay in Japan with her dad, with Yumika, thinking about where Yumika is and what she wants to do with her life. And she just thinks, everything's just sticking together right now. My insides feel like they're on fire. And she says that aloud to Taiki. And then she just goes, she took all that time off, and she's still just as good at basketball. It makes no sense. It's like she's just been practicing in another dimension or something. And Taiki's like, oh, we're talking about Yumika.
I did like the moment of you like, Yumika. Got it.
And Chinatsu's like, she said she's glad she stopped playing basketball for a while. She hasn't even considered how I feel. And now she's all buddy-buddy with Nagase. And Taiki's like, I don't know who this is. Who is that? And Chinatsu's like, Yumika enjoys basketball as much as she did before. And I've probably changed. And she just says really loudly, I'm so jealous. And that's why I came to see you.
Aww.
And Taiki looks at her for a second, and, you know, Chinatsu came to him not just because they're in a relationship, but because he gets her in a way that nobody fucking else does. So he looks at her, and he says, score. Does the Ippon thing that she would use to encourage him way back at the beginning of the series. And that's all she needs.
Yep.
Big smile on her face, and she says, I'm going now. Are you sure? I'm hungry.
Hungry now, bye. You're like, oh, you do have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's that real strong girlfriend energy where they're like, gotta go, I want things now, bye.
Taiki thinks to himself as Chinatsu leaves that she is really strong in every meaning of the word, a person who can overcome her problems all by herself, but it's because she is who she is that I want to be in a relationship with her. Aww.
Yeah.
And then there's an awkward moment where Chinatsu's dad is behind him when he turns around. He's like, did you see that? What are you talking about? Okay.
All right.
That's the end of the chapter.
Guess that all worked out. Yeah, good chapter. Fun little character moment. I like this exploration of Chinatsu's character. And yeah, this is some good stuff. Let's move on into Kaiju number 8, though.
Chainsaw Man.
Was there a Chainsaw Man? Oh, there was. That's right.
I just want to say before I move into that I really appreciate that we have this note of like Chinatsu realizes that she's worked so hard on basketball and she's not even sure if she actually enjoys it anymore. And that's kind of scary to her. Like,
yeah.
So we'll see how that develops. And hopefully we get a big moment of like, no, she still likes basketball, because that'd be so sad if she didn't.
She was like, actually, this sucks ass. I hate that I'm doing this.
Oh, it's too hard. Chainsaw Man, chapter 186. Yank, Blorsh, Bedroom.
How can I forget such an iconic chapter title?
Denji, via eating tree guts in the aging devil world, has managed to revive Chainsaw Man in the real world, who goes after the aging devil and is just full Hulk jumping it. Boom, boom, boom. Jumping from building to building to car to building to air conditioning unit. That person is going to have such a hot house. I'm sorry. To building to building. The aging devil knows
Nick,
this is happening.
If you live in the Chainsaw Man universe, like, if your worst thing is you're like, oh, the air conditioning's out, you're like, well, at least my house has been eaten by a tornado or a shark or a tornado shark or something.
Quinn, I live in Florida. I'll have you know that here, the not having air conditioning devil is very strong. So,
the air conditioning falling out of your window devil is very powerful.
That's how Chidi died. So, the aging devil knows, of course, that Chainsaw Man's coming and warns everyone in the public safety division that he's meeting with, like, hey, so he's going to get here really soon. And if he kills me, he's probably not going to eat me. So, this is a contract, public safety agents. Give me charge of your bodies, and I will save you from death at Chainsaw Man's hands. And among them is, oh god, I keep forgetting her name.
Oh,
Himiko? Is that it? Himeko? Fumiko? Because I don't think it's Fumiko. Because that's...
I feel like it's somewhere in that space between the two you just mentioned, Himiko or like Fumino.
It is Fumiko.
Fumiko.
It is Fumiko. I get it confused because of Fami. So... So Fumiko is there with a bunch of other agents, and she's just like, yes, sir. So he just says, nails, all their fingernails explode off. Ah!
That just powered up another devil.
Yeah. Chainsaw Man gets hit by something. Just torso falls free from the legs, falls free from the head. And all of the Seiji agents go, ah, because, their fingernails just exploded off. And the agent devil's like, look, I have no choice. I'm going to force feed myself to him if I have to. And Fumiko and the other agents are like, we get it. Look, the world's shit right now. The Chainsaw Man wannabes, the War Devil, they're wrecking Tokyo. The prophecy could come true. An age of devils could arrive. If we can evolve mankind with Chainsaw Man's power, the age of humans will continue, so we are prepared to be sacrificed. Use us to be eaten by Chainsaw Man. And the Agent Devil's just like, Just like, yeah, thanks. Nice speech. Anyway, Denji, in the Agent Devil world, is just still eating guts, continuing to rev up and eat guts while he does so that Chainsaw Man keeps on reviving. The Aging Devil declares liver, and Fumiko starts coughing up blood. I don't know if she's going to live through this, Quinn.
Well, this is an important question, Nick. If she dies here in the process of this, how do you feel?
About her?
Yeah, about her specifically, because she's a character I feel like everyone hates her, though, because she's probably, if something bad did happen to Nayuta, she is primarily responsible for it, or at least for not protecting her. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm kind of glad this bitch gets hers.
I feel like she could have been way more interesting if this is just how she goes out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people die in Chainsaw Man, so whatever.
Kaneko Man's fucking joke. It's called liver, not dyer. So stupid.
So the Chainsaw Man keeps on going. The Aging Devil, after using the liver, explodes off his head. Doesn't matter. The guts grab the head and pull it back on when Denji revs his ripcord. So the Aging Devil declares eyes, and one of the safety agent's eyes explode out. More heads exploding off. And then the Chainsaw Man uses one of his chainsaw arms, bites into his own torso, and the Aging Devil just goes, oh, no way. And rips out the Pochita heart and throws it at the Aging Devil, and that's where we end the chapter.
Very stressing cliffhanger, but that should be very cool. I, as somebody who does enjoy seeing bad characters get their comeuppance, it is somewhat satisfying seeing Fumiko just slowly give all of her stuff away, and to the point where you're like, oh, this dude's dying for sure. So this is just like an extraordinarily awful way to end things. Yeah, I don't know, makes you feel things. Should I be feeling glad that this character, who is not, I don't know, like, yeah, she sucks, fuck her. I don't know, there was a moment I was like, it's not like she killed Nayuta. I was like, she left a child alone. Yeah, I was like, she kind of did when she just left. So actually, no, never mind. Yeah, I hope she gets everything she fucking deserves here and more.
Now we'll do Kaiju number 8.
Kaiju, jump and Kaiju.
Okay.
Yeah.
We left off on the note of the entire army being decimated by the ancient Kaiju. Like insects, we were powerless, and all their despair grew into this weird insectoid kaiju that is now known as Kaiju number 8, the parasitic being that is now with Kafka. Kafka looks upon this thing's body as it's all weak and stuff and just constantly muttering, the shame, the shame. And now Kafka recognizes it for what it is. The samurai from before comes up to him and says, nearly 100 days. That is how long the great catastrophe lasted before the power that monster stored underground ran dry. Using my heart as a core, our grudge became a single mass, mingled with ley lines deep underground, and turned into a kaiju without a physical form of its own, just like that creature. Before you lie the twisted remnants of our grudge. And the warrior removes his mask, and he looks basically just like Kafka, but with like extra scars.
Yes.
So Kafka asks, why have you shown me all this? The warrior answers, you chose to fight, but you don't stand a chance against that creature now. we need to form an even deeper bond and become one with one another. He holds out a hand, and a human heart appears inside it. He says, this is your heart. I planned on returning it after defeating the creature. However, now that we've lost the core, we have no choice but to convert this heart into a new core. You must make a choice. Accept this as your heart and revert to being a human, or turn it into a core and become a beast. Choose the latter, and you will become one with us. You will no longer be able to revert to being human. You'd go against the wishes of your caring friends and end up betraying your younger self. Do you still wish to fight? And Kafka takes all this in, looks down at the old, shame-filled body of Kaiju number 8 and says, we were the same all along. There were things you couldn't help with, wishes you couldn't make come true. You were frustrated and in agony, but you refused to give up and fought all this time. Compared to the load that you've been shouldering, what I've been carrying is a drop in the bucket. I was able to make it this far because of you. Thank you. It's my turn to repay you. Let's go. It's revenge match time! And the warrior's like, are you sure? Yes! Look!
Sounds
So
like
he's
this
all
arc
right.
isn't going to end if you do that, though. No, I'm going to fight now. Are you sure? Because it's been like kind of non-stop fighting for 2 years.
Let's do it! All right. The heart that he's holding turns into a core, and the warrior says, then take it, and pushes it into Kafka's chest. In the real world, Kafka's body starts to react as he turns into permanently ? A kaiju. That's our chapter. I do like Kafka's speech in this
Sure.
to remind you of hey, look, this is a guy who really, really wanted to help his fellow man fight kaiju and defend them and stuff, and he just wasn't strong enough to do it, just like these guys weren't. So that's what he takes away from all this. But yeah, in the grander scope of things, it does feel like, I don't know, what is the pace we're going with here? Is this the final battle? What's going on?
I have no idea. I think if you had asked me a month ago, I'd have been like, yeah, I think we're just wrapping up doing a small mini arc, and then maybe the next one's going to be the big final one. But honestly, now he might immediately jump back into things, and yeah, maybe it's just going to have a final fight for a month and a half, and then the series is over. I have no idea.
We'll find out, I suppose.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, let's move on to Astro Royale, Nick.
Hellfire blazing like a dragon. Your guys aren't nearly as cool as those Yakuza. You guys fuck off. Chapter 33, Revival. So we have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Sequence where, a prophecy gets shown to the protagonist for some reason when they touch a thing. So Kinpa is with Hibaru, and he's got the Daybreak Ore, and they see a big old light in the distance. And Kiba says, this is just like the dream I had when I
see it coming closer.
There
we go, Nick, carry it on.
With the force of Yakuza, centuries come by.
There we go. Defectors or protectors of the light.
Of the right. Protectors of the right, they're sworn to fight.
Yeah. What series was this even?
Dino Thunder.
Damn, what a fucking great opening. Really one of the best. Sorry, I really distracted us. I apologize.
So the Daybreak Ore is presumably giving them this vision, and Ibarra says, it began when someone wished... Oh, he doesn't say this. There is a voice that's coming from the Daybreak Ore, or from the light in the distance, and it says, it's come into your possession, the Daybreak Ore. It began when someone wished to destroy this world. The Daybreak Ore was broken into 6 pieces. Collect them all! So, the light says, Shio wished for domination. But what is your wish? So I gotta get the Dragon Balls, guys. So, the light fades. Kinpa and Hibaru wake up on the bottom floor of the plant. And they're like, did you see that? Yeah, Yeah, I did see that. The others come by and they're like, "Oh, you guys okay? The ocean's freezing over. We gotta get to the chopper and get out of here. The planet is covered in ice now." And Quran says it's like a symbol of Himuro's evil. Whatever. So there's like no gravitas that this is shown with, and he has the balls to say that very, very, very ominous line. So Ibaru says, "Do you think this was for the best? He hated the Yotsurugi family even at the moment of his death." Stop trying to be introspective. What are you doing? There was not nearly enough of a complex and interesting character for you to start questioning this.
If I was in that helicopter, me and all my friends would have been like, that cop was a fucking dork, right? What a fucking dork-ass stupid loser. Like, yeah, dude, I felt like a Mexican wrestler who was like loyal to him or some shit. I don't know, it was weird. Like, yeah, what fucking dorks.
So anyway, these things are Dragon Balls? What's up with that?
Yeah. No, it's different. We just have one, and we need to find the 6 other ones. And we get them all together, we can make a big wish.
No, wait, there's 6 total.
Oh, that's the ticket.
Totally different. Totally different. Rary says, "Look, Himura was on the path of no return, and that's because his mistake drove his father to death." I'm glad she got that and has it all together. But she also says, "Look, guys, I love the Yotsurugis. I'm proud of our father. But public opinion differs. People automatically decide we're bad because we're Yakuza."
What a line. It's awful, really, when you think about it, Nick. We're trying to be such an advanced world, but there really is a lot of negative stereotypes surrounding Yakuza nowadays. You just hear someone's part of the Yakuza, and you're like, I guess that person's a criminal. That's all you can think.
If the Godfather movies were just all of them going, it's like, us mafiosos get a bad rap, but, people are so quick to judge.
Hard cut to the horse head in the dude's bed. We're not so bad, That horse, it lived on an all-grain diet. That was a good life that horse had before it was killed to send a message.
I command so much respect as the Don. So many people come to me for favors. I have so much favor over the underworld. But you know what I want? I want teenagers to think I'm cool and not be scared of me.
I want the respect of the normies. I feel like that's what's been missing from my life. I want to walk into a Target and an old lady treats me with respect.
Not even respect, just to say, hello, how are you doing?
I would like her to show me where the scented candles are, not the ones that are overly fruity, the ones that smell like nature, that give like an authentic smell to the house. If she knew I was mafia, though, she'd send me right to the fucking smelly section with the shitty candles. I can't have that in my life.
That's what happens when you're presumed to be evil. You get sent to the shitty products at Target.
Oh, sometimes they don't even let you in Target. I have one friend, he's a mafioso. They send them right to fucking Aldi. It's crazy what they do in this country.
Anyway, she says that's why she, quote unquote, lies about who she is. Apparently their father said to her, like, "Hey, look, you're really smart. I want you to protect the family, but do it from the outside with an unbiased eye." So there you go. All right.
It's confusing to me because, like, are you that disconnected from the family by just being a lawyer and having like a different last name? Yeah. I was like, it's not like he told this to her when she was like 6 and she was like, she was
fully an adult.
Yeah, she's like a grown ass woman. He's just like, all right, you should delete your Facebook page and say you don't know us. And that'll work because you're not a mafia. And they treat us mafia people real bad.
She says the big line then after all this to Hibaru: "If you're gonna openly carry the Yotsurugi name, you need to make something known to the public. Tell them that we now live in a world where we need Yakuza more than ever." And you know what? If this were all about, like, the extenuating circumstances of the world's gotten wrecked by a massive asteroid and people have superpowers now, the Yakuza, have a weird place that they can fill, which will be like good and protective because of that, then yeah, sure, okay. But there's just this weird thing of like, the Yakuza aren't necessarily bad guys, and it's like Are these guys Yakuza?
It's fine, Nick. We have a series about pirates that we read every week, and you just have to accept that this is a series that is, like, unwilling to examine whether the fact that Yakuza can at any point really be bad guys.
So, Ibarra looks at the Daybreak ore, which everyone at this point realizes he now has, and he says, I think the meteorite fell because of the Daybreak ore. And if the Yotsurugi family is involved in the catastrophe, it's my responsibility to clean up the mess. That's the karmic burden entrusted to you, Hibaru Yotsurugi, says Hiburo, who's dead now. So Ibaru's like, yes, I'll accept it. Thank you, crazy cop guy. You're the reason I'm going to be a hero now. So a week later, Terazo's out of jail. Makes sense, you know. So he's gathered all the Yotsurugi people that are around now in the big meeting chambers that like the whole family used to meet in. And so Hibaru says to everyone, look, I need information about what's going on across the country so we can figure out what's going on here. Terazo pledges his faction support. And then Terazo says, okay, so there's 6 Daybreak ores. Shio has 2. Hibaru has 1, as far as we know. Terazo says, I heard a weird rumor in jail. There's some big event coming up in Yokohama soon. And the prize sounds like a Daybreak ore. All right. Glad you conveniently learned about that. In jail!
Also, I like how, like, they're like, yeah, there's this big event coming up. The reward's gonna be this weird, gross-ass, like, screaming ball of mouths and fingers. I can't wait. Everybody's super hyped for it. Every little freak is gonna be there.
So, Hibaru says, all right, Tora, you and I want you to go to Kansai. Kuran and Kimpa, you go to Hokkaido. And Terasu and I will go to Yokohama. We'll seize the Daybreak ore, stand at the top of all the Yakuza in Japan, and help the country recover from chaos. That's my karmic burden and duty now. Meanwhile, Shio says, hey, we're going to Yokohama. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter.
I have 0 thoughts on this. It's mostly just a silly, dumb chapter, but cool. I guess we're going to keep going for a little bit longer. Or maybe we're just going to speed through. Maybe the other friends will be like, we found the other ones. It wasn't an issue. And then
wild if that happens.
Hibaru just punches Shio and he drops his. He's like, oh no, the 2 I was holding on to.
This, just like the Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi chapter we got last week of like, oh, he's the leader of a faction of 13 or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess we're setting up for like long-term plans and stuff. This is very clear, like long-term plans, collect them all in order to solve all the problems and stuff, warring over these different things. It's going to take like, you know, an arc at least dedicated to each of these Daybreak ores and stuff. And it's like, yeah, well, what's going to happen if it's not? And we got to rush through it.
Also, I like how Shio was in a room with like fucking 30 people, it looks like. You can only tell 2 of them because they're the only ones. And they're like, where do we go next? And he's like, to Yokohama. I'm like, Hibaru tackled 3 places with like an 1/8 of the people you have. Why are you not being like, hey, you guys
get on the bus, everybody.
You guys should be going to Hokkaido. Not for nothing, but like, we should send somebody there, right?
Shio is very bad at Warcraft. He can only focus on one location at a time.
Oh, he's real bad at RTSs. He's like, well, why is there not a pause button?
Yeah. Hima-Ten, chapter number 22, Stargazing. There's a quick little bonus thing just about the fact that, hey, Volume 2 is coming out, and Honoka is on the cover. There's a joke where Mayu is like, oh, let me do this, and she writes in Hono over Hima, so it's like, hey, there you now, you're the heroine. It's cute. Anyway,
it's also cute because she's like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of that, and her friend's like, sorry, but she doesn't look unhappy about that name change. She's actually seems like it's all for it.
Last time Iamori was wondering, oh my gosh, is Honoka going to wear the lipstick that, you know, Himari said was going to, you know, like make her crush fall in love with her, and she is not wearing it. So she is wearing it.
She is wearing it, yeah. It doesn't look like it from the panel because you can't really, like, you had to, like, zoom in kind of tight to see a little bit of, like, the glimmer on the bottom lip, but yeah.
Yeah, I got confused and I'm tired. Anyway, so yes, she is wearing it, and of course, Himari is like, oh my god! She's crushing me, oh my god! But then very randomly, their teacher walks by and she's like, "Oh, Kanai, you're wearing makeup. That's kind of unusual for you." And Iemori is like, or rather, Honoka's like, "Oh, it's because my lips get chapped really easily. I normally put on chapstick after a bath, so I put on lip gloss instead. Yeah." And Iemori's like, "Oh, I guess it's not because of me then."
Oh.
Okay. They go up to the stargazing platform. They're both up there, and it's like so pretty because, of course, they're off in a rural area, and so they get to enjoy the natural light. They got binoculars and stuff. There's a series of cute moments where Iemori says something that looks like he is being very romantic with Honoka. Like, he looks at her and is like, "Oh, so pretty. How the stars are," does that several times. And, Honoka's like very conscious of him because of all the stuff that's been going through her mind, her crush on him and stuff. And, like, there's even a moment where Iemori goes, "I love, and she's like, 'Oh, I love you,' so,
yeah,
she's really got it bad.
These two are both like in a weird mental state in this moment that is emblematic of when teenagers are around their crush.
Mm-hmm. But she's trying to keep it together. Then Iemori, gets the binoculars out and stargazing too. Yes, what's up?
Oh, it's mostly because he has this line where he's just like, I could see the Big Dipper over there, but actually there's like another group of stars over here called the Milk Dipper. What I really like is that, maybe it's not as flashy as the Big Dipper, but that's kind of what I like about it. Like, he's being kind of like a star hipster, and Onoka's just like, I'm also not as flashy as like she like gets like happy at this moment. You're like, girl, don't
Calm
be
down.
happy about yourself comparing yourself to the like B grade Big Dipper. Like, please, you're better than this.
Also, I'm pretty sure Iemori is just going, 2 cakes. Wow. So, Honoka also, there's a cute moment where she's just kind of like watching him while he's excited over the stars, and then when he turns to her, she's like, "Oh, I'm not looking at you," and so they're being awkward teenagers and stuff. But Honoka observes that Iemori is like being really enthusiastic about this stuff when he's normally very like cool and collected and everything. But then he says, I had fun when we went to the comedy show. It was my first time hanging out with you, and they're starting to get like an actual like connection going. And then their teacher's like, "Okay, we got 1 minute left." She's like, "We are on a schedule. Fuck stars. I want to go to bed."
Yeah.
But so there's an awkward moment, but when they lose their momentum there. But Honoka says, "Yeah, I guess we never really got to talk in middle school all that much, even though we were, in the same class for part of it." She says, "We always end up sitting so far from each other." And Iemori says, "Well, even if we had been sitting close, I guess I was, really awkward talking to girls back then." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." And then she thinks back on, like, those awkward middle school years, where she clearly had a thing for him from afar, and was just kind of like, watching him, like, when it was time for class duties and stuff, and he was always paired up with someone else, and then time came for the two of them to be on duty together, so they're literally right next to each other, racing the board together, not talking.
It's adorable, but it is sad that they let so many years go by.
So Honoka says, it's not as awkward to talk to you now because, we are better at communicating and stuff. And she says, "I wish we could have talked sooner." And that, has a bit of an effect on Iemori. And he says, "I've known her since middle school, but I feel like I've been talking with Yoshino for way longer." Oh dear.
No, it's gonna work out, Nick. It's gonna go fine.
He kind of awkwardly brings up, like, "Are you wearing, Yoshino's makeup?" And, because I heard she was, like, handing them out and stuff. And she says, yeah, it is, yeah. And so he starts to go, "Does that mean?" And she says, "Yeah, I forgot to bring mine from home." So, again, just kind of like, just doesn't...
Deflect. Gotta deflect real quick.
Yeah, don't want him... I don't... I don't want him to know that I have a crush on him because love is war. So, yeah, he's just like, oh, I guess it didn't mean anything. Oh well. Ah,
You idiot!
It's a good thing we're not as awkward as we were when we were in middle school, right, guys?
I've slightly improved. Now I'd only cry a little bit.
I was referring to them.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's just the point. So,
yeah. But you know what? He'll figure it out. Eventually, he's going to be like, actually, it's notable she wore any kind of lipstick, even if she forgot hers at home. But whatever, he'll figure it out. Nick, do we have a witch we have to read about?
Yeah, an Ichi the Witch. 14th hunt. Okay. It's just question marks. We get an explanation that, mushroom hunting is like dangerous. So because of, how awful mushrooms are, especially in this world where some of them inflame the skin with only a touch. Spores cause immediate breathing problems with a single whiff. Randomly grab any mushroom you find without any idea what you're doing, and you'll die. Ichi says this and says, like, yeah, when I was, young, Minakata, like, had to actually tell me about safe mushrooms and stuff. So it's not just the fish preparing that Minakata taught Ichi, which makes sense. They did seemingly know each other for a long time in the woods. So he says, like, the main thing you gotta know is to be prepared. So don't just cover your arms or legs. You gotta cover your eyes. You gotta cover your mouth. And so not only has he like put on the gloves and boots and the face mask and the goggles, but so have Descaras and Kumugi as well. And in fact, some of Togi says, I keep on wanting to know if I should just be calling her Toge Ice, because that's how her name is spelled and she has ice powers, and it's anyway. So a lot of her followers are like, we had a protective barrier, but we've got like it sucks, mushrooms, nausea, dizziness, and everything. So Toge tells them, like, all right, focus on healing yourselves. And she, in fact, has some spores on her, and a few very dangerous-looking mushrooms suddenly start growing on her shoulder until she just freezes them right there and then shatters them off immediately. And she's disgusted by them, of course. And she says, that does it. I'm through being gentle. This magic needs to be taken down in one go. And Ichi is saying the same thing right now. He explains to Descaras and Kumugi, all right, so mushrooms like to grow in damp places, dark places, like, the bases of trees and nooks and crannies and stuff. So I know the places that it is most likely to hide, but tracking it down is not going to be easy. It's going to come down to speed and timing, and this is a quick thing. It's hard for us to move fast in our protective gear, so we got to set a trap. Kumugi! Aw.
Poor girl.
So we catch up with the Kindake Magic, who is really upset. He just wants to be a mushroom and have mushrooms everywhere. This poor, stupid thing. And he's like, oh, that mushroom murdering maniac! Oh, I do want tons of followers, but I don't need that guy.
Yeah, this dude sucks. If this is the only fan I can get, I don't want him.
So he's like, maybe I should just turn them all into mycelium mats. Maybe, I don't know, but I gotta go rest somewhere. I gotta find somewhere nice to sleep. Somewhere like, and Kumugi has been trapified. She's got like moss and dead branches strewn over her. She's holding very still while she's hunched on the ground. She's got dead leaves around her and stuff. And the Kindake Magic says, it's perfect! A mushroom couldn't ask for a better bed to grow in! The reek of rotting vegetation! The dank, gloomy air! This bed is the most luxuriant bed ever! Poor Kumugi.
Yeah, she just looks like she's like...
gloomy.
Like, her eyes are closed, but you can tell she's like, fuck this guy.
I hate this so much. She's got to get just, like, fear factored, too. So the Kindake gets right up on her shoulder. And she says, oh, I'm going to have doom spores and holotap fungi, grow all kinds of mushrooms, turn this into the best mushroom. And Kumugi just grabs him and calls for Ichi, who comes storming out from a hiding spot. And he's got his leg booster boots on so that he can get a really quick charge in He dashes towards the Kindake mushroom in order to cut its little tentacle leash thing. And then he feels, oh, wait a second, bloodlust. And at that moment, icy spires emerge from the ground in a ring all around them as Togisei summons a fucking ice worm from the ground that just tries to swallow the entire clearing that they're in and a bunch more mushrooms as well. And she's just like, we're just going to swallow the whole thing and freeze it all solid. That's my magic.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to get this. So Komugi and Ichi are with the Kindake magic still in this clearing. So Komugi's like, Ichi, come on, cut the vine. And she is racing towards Ichi with it outstretched. But Ichi's not looking at her. He's not looking at Togisei or the worm. He uses leg booster boots and dashes right out of its mouth away from her. And Komugi's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And Ichi just immediately thinks, it wasn't them. The cold shudder I felt, that sudden extreme blast of bloodlust, and he races straight for a figure on the horizon, that figure with the staff and hat that he ran into back at the village. And he rushes towards it with knife outstretched, clashes with it, and it blocks its strike as he says, you're a magic. This is such a fun chapter. I love the sequence that we get in just the whole second half of this, where it's like, all right, we got this. The ice worm comes up. Komugi's still trying desperately to get the magic over to Ichi. Ichi dashes out of it, gets that cool 2-page spread encountering the other magic. Just awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm enjoying it. We're going to find out what Mr. Mystery Magic is hopefully all about. It's a fun wrinkle to add.
Quinn, did you just say mystery?
I did say mystery, Nick.
Hmm.
I wish we have a mystery in our hands, and I wish we knew someone who could solve it.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess something happened to kind of tilt the scales this week, where we were both going like, I don't know if we're gonna do Sidcraft, and then turns out the third member of the harem, because I mean, let's just call it that, showed up.
This was the chapter that really revealed, I think, what the tone of this series is going to be going forward, and it was like, we never learn.
Yeah. Sidcraft! Love is a mystery. Case 4. Cats at twilight strangely sleep to the same dream. Detective Inspector Souffle, I should say, is after the Phantom Thief Mistcat, a feminine Phantom Thief figure who has a cool mask and cool boots. And she has just gotten off with a gem of some kind, and she triumphantly declares that she gets away from Souffle and the other cops. That what she has taken shall be brazenly yet modestly used to help the poor townsfolk. So please try to understand. And poof, disappears and leaves a note behind as well. So which Souffle is like, maybe we should have asked Detective Sid for help. No, she doesn't say that. Of course she doesn't. The other cop said that. She's like, no, fuck you!
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this myself.
I can do this, I swear. I'm an adult.
Turns out the Phantom Thief Mistcat is a Robin Hood / Scarlet Pumpernickel, especially like very Scarlet Pumpernickel kind of themed thief who is a chivalrous figure who steals from the evil rich and gives to the poor. She arrives back at her mansion and is greeted by her mother. Yes, her mother. I had to make sure of that. Who was the previous Phantom Thief, Mistcat. So this is a title that has been passed down from generation to generation, much like the Phantom, famous comic that nobody reads. So
I didn't even know. Okay, Is it always been the Scarlet Pumpernickel? Like the bread?
No, that's me. We're confusing you with that. The Scarlet I'm so sorry. The Scarlet Pimpernel.
Okay.
That's
I had a moment. I was like, wait.
That's the Daffy Duck cartoon.
I was going to say, I was like, that's the The cartoon one, right?
It is. It absolutely is.
Okay.
And you know what? That is just because as a kid, that was the only thing I knew it by because of
That's
that
fair.
cartoon. It is the Scarlet Pimpernel. My mistake. Sorry. So I was fully on board with this character at this point. It's like, oh, okay, Phantom Thief character. All right. She's like kind of our serious, like deadpan kind of character. She's the one who's doesn't make a lot of facial expressions and stuff. And turns out her family is fated rivals with Sid's family of detectives, according to a little thing that her mother says. And then Miss Cat, whose real name is Lulu Chatenoir, says, you know, it's not that I hate being a phantom thief, but my mother doesn't know that there's something else I'm more madly in love with. And immediately I went, don't do it. Don't you dare.
Did you do it like Werner Herzog, where you're like, don't you do that. Don't do this to me.
Do not do this
Please.
to me. Please.
I deserve better than
It
this.
is agony if you continue on the path that you are on. And Lulu goes to scope out a museum to check out an art piece that is her next target. And she says, I might be able to catch up on my reading a bit. No. And she pulls out a book filled with passion and heart-racing excitement, a romance novel. Oh, she's a fan of Sophia's Unforgivable Love. Why does every character have to like this book?
It's something that ties them all together.
No!
Why?
You don't need two love interests to be tied to Sid with the same fucking device. God, it's the worst device. It's boring. It's not even a funny bad.
Okay, I didn't think it was so bad, but Nick has strong thoughts on this.
Chapter broke me on this aspect of Sid's character. Like I'm running out of things that I could potentially like about Sid as a character.
Wow.
Like everything about him is annoying to me that are his core like qualities. Like, oh, I don't like being a detective. Fuck you. Oh, I like romance novels. Fuck you. Like, I just hate everything about him, and this is all we're going to get. Ah!
But Nick, I also like romance novels and dislike having to solve mysteries. Do you dislike me?
I don't have to read about your life every week.
What the fuck? I've been sending you a new chapter every week. What have you been doing with them?
I'll leave it unread.
Oh, damn!
I just got you junk filtered with certain subject words.
Nick, I had another experience today, and Nick's email is like straight to the spam box. I finally figured out my relationship with my dad. Like, don't care.
Sorry, Quinn, I would have read that, but you also included the keywords romance novel, and I... So, for whatever reason, the two of them are in the same museum, reading the same book, and both comment on it aloud at the exact same moment. Oh, Sophia's Unforgivable Love is truly a masterpiece. And they both look at each other and go, ah, you understand, yes. And they both start enthusiastically, monotonously as well, though, talking about the book. But then, all of a sudden, Lulu realized, like, I've never had a conversation with a guy like this before. Like, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And she just thinks about how, you know, most of her life was just spent with her mother gruelingly training her to be a phantom thief, so she didn't really have time for a social life. And then Sid introduces himself, and she's immediately like, oh no, that's the super famous detective from the family that's rivals of my family. Oh dear. Okay, well maybe I should make the most of this opportunity. And it turns out he is here because he got a tip about the Phantom Thief, Miss Cat. He is investigating this case and stuff. And so she says, do you have any leads? Nope. Oh, okay. But there is this calling card, and he immediately analyzes, like, well, the paper quality and the clock and the fiber to suggest that it's probably a middle-class young woman. There's an ink different from the one used to write the note, the smudge on the surface, which indicates that she is an arduous reader, someone who, and then he realizes that he's basically describing Lulu because she is a middle-class young woman who has a book in her hands, and she says, It seems like someone that we would get along with. And Lulu's like, he knows. This I like.
Yes,
That-
it's legitimately very funny that she's like, he's on to me, and he's like,
He knows.
I navigated that awkward situation quite well. That could have been weird.
So immediately she's like, he can't know though. He can't. So she sneaks away. Heads off and she's like, I gotta go. Good luck with your investigation. Souffle is there with security. Elio is there as well. They're protecting. I don't even know.
It's Nick. It's exactly what it says. The pizza
in
the
vase.
vase. Yeah. I don't know what you need else explained to you. It looks like pepperoni. I think that's the only question you could possibly have.
Just a slice of pizza contained within a beaker, by the way, not a vase.
Nick, this is a sign. This is from Susui to us about the pizza bet regarding Sekujo, a scientist. This is a direct reference to us. And the fact that I was right and won the pizza bet.
I gave you that pizza. Shut the fuck up.
Thank you.
So anyway, Lulu goes into full mist cat mode again, goes into the vent. And you know what? As someone who played Deus Ex Human Revolution through like 3 times, yes, vents are a great place to start. Go for it. Sneaking around up in the vents. Oh man, it was a Susui series after all. There's her butt. So...
there was a moment where I was like, yes, I am aware of this man's work now.
But as she heads around a corner, she's like, all right, yeah, this is just the quickest route. I'll do this real quick, then get back to reading my romance novel. She just turns a corner and Sid is in the vent ahead of her. And is just checking as like, oh yeah, this is an entry point to the Voss room. I gotta make sure that I keep an eye out here. So it was like, oh crap, all right, not bad, Mr. Detective. So she heads off and is like, all right, I've got backup plans though. Every single one that she goes to, Sid is right there. Finds a hole hidden behind a portrait, secret passage hidden under. What is that cat statue doing in this art museum?
What do you mean?
It's so cartoonish.
That's a fucking work of art. Why are you being so mean to people's hard work in this fictional universe? Elio worked hard on those novels. Subsculptor worked hard on that cat.
Well, they didn't work hard enough. So
Nick, this is also a museum that has a main exhibit of a slice of pizza instead of a vase or a vase-like object.
I have an easier time buying that someone would look at that and go, oh yes, the commentary on modern society, yes, than a cartoon sketch cat sculpture being here.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, I hope you enjoy your Christmas gift. It's the sculpture of the cat, Nick. I thought you liked them. Sorry.
Miss Cat is just out of breath by the end of this because all of her plans that she had are just, she runs into Sid in all of them. So she's like, all right, fine, I'll withdraw for the day. That's all I can do. But then she turns to leave, runs right into Sid. And she's immediately like, oh shit, my cover's blown. God, I gotta get out of here. So she runs for the roof, realizes, oh my god, the rope I had here to escape is also gone. Damn it. And then Sid catches her, grabs her by the wrist from behind, and she's like, oh my god, she's got me. And he says, no, your book's right here. She said, what? You forgot your book on the bench when we were sitting together earlier. I've been searching for you to give it back. And this is actually very sweet.
Yes.
That he was just being a good guy, and he's like, look, I understand, because I also hold books in very high regard. These are our very lives. She could have gotten another copy, but okay, it's very sweet of you. So, she says, what about the Phantom Thief? Oh yeah, so I had the Phantom Thief matter to deal with, and so I examined every possible entry point route that I could think of and thoroughly eliminated them, and then I went looking for you. And
she's like, that son of a bitch.
He just did it really easily, just completely thwarted all of my plans. And then she says, fine. I cannot accept this. I don't care if he's a great detective. Does this mean the Phantom Thief is nothing in his eyes? He mixed things up, not even realizing that we're enemies, and yet, for it to save me, I cannot accept this. I will get my payback at the next crime scene, I swear. But in reality, she says, Lulu is my name. I will repay you the next chance I get. And then she thinks to herself, I don't know if that's sounded like the way I meant it to sound when I said it in my head first. Yeah. So she goes home afterwards. Fortunately, the Phantom Thief did not strike successfully because of Sid's help. Souffle and Elio are very happy with him. And then, Sid's just going to think to himself, like, huh, I got to hold a pretty girl's arm today. So he's happy. Lulu goes home and she's making a whole bunch of plans to thieve so that the next time she encounters Sid, she'll be ready. I like the rivals, but that secretly like each other angle of this. Fucking put away the romance novels. I don't like this. I don't like the way that they're used as this plot device. I feel like this should only be a thing that ties Sid to Elio. Like, I don't want this to come up again. I don't want this to be like the second dividing quality of another relationship in this series. I don't vibe with it. Don't like it.
Well, you say that. It sounded like you still kind of enjoyed this chapter. I enjoyed this chapter. This is like what made me get Sid Craft, where I was like, oh, okay, this is a harem with like just an extra layer kind of separating it, where like the mysteries are not going to be the focal point. There is no mystery in this chapter. We know who the person who's going to commit the crime is, and how she is going to commit it is irrelevant. It is just a series of gags about how Sid is like one step ahead of her. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is much more of a romantic comedy that can, if it needs to, put a mystery in its series. And once I got that, I enjoyed this a little bit more. I liked Lulu's character, I think, a little bit more than I liked the other two leads. So that helped a little bit. And I just thought it was funny that it was like, yeah, the gimmick is like a detective and like, the Catwoman, cat burglar character, but he's a dope, basically, who is thwarting all of her plans without ever realizing who she is. And I just think that's kind of funny.
Yeah. Let's go over to Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi chapter 24. Let's go to the hot spring. Hey,
go to the hot spring.
Got to help Kiyoshi recover and stuff. So there is a health resort that they go to, run by exorcists, for exorcists to be at. And hey, Kiyoshi gets to go with some friends to a hot spring. So that's, something on his friendship bucket list that he's happy about. On top of that, Mr. Sakaki announces to everyone that they also get to stay in the VIP suites because, Nihan says, I always knew Mr. Sakaki was filthy rich. And Akari says, I mean, he does make money, but he gambles it all away. He probably just hit it big at the racetrack. But Sakaki says, well, look, this resort is part of the Exorcist Association. If this was a normal resort, I would not be able to afford it. But as a treasured and beloved ex-cross paladin, and he's got a massive ass portrait on the wall. So he's got VIP status automatically, essentially. A very scary looking guy greets Sakaki at the front desk and says, oh, I'm so honored to have you here. He's the manager of this place. Sakaki asks if the you-know-what has been prepared. The guy then turns to Kiyoshi, who is still being carried around by Jack Joe. I can only assume this is because Kiyoshi just cannot stand on his own at this point. But he's kind of like in a burlap sack as if he's being abducted, so it's a little bit awkward. But he says, hey, I heard that you fought off the great demon lord. That's great. You are our greatest hope, and I'm rooting for you. Enjoy your stay. And Kiyoshi's, kind of flustered after this. Then they get in the bath, and everyone's having a nice soak. Sakaki says, like, hey, this is miraculous spring water. It works super well on exorcists. It helps out with, diseases and stuff. And he also says the total list of benefits is approximately 2 trillion items long, which seems impossible. But like Jack Joe and Nehan go to play at a waterfall shower. They say, "Hey, Kiyoshi, come and join us." But Sakaki says, "Hey, Kiyoshi, go in this one." And there's this weird cauldron with a skull on it with like bubbling oil in it. And he says, like, the best bathwater is the murkiest. That's just, it's like, how bitter medicine is better for you.
Sure. I wouldn't get in that shit, but whatever. No. You can tell me that.
Kiyoshi gets in it. It's really, really, really hot. And he's like, "Are you sure this is safe?" And Sakaki says, "Yes, entrust your body to the water." He goes underneath the water. And Sakaki narrates how, like you've pushed your body to the limit, but you can still grow so much stronger. A huge burst of light comes out of the cauldron. Kiyoshi's power is overflowing everywhere. Sakaki says, "This is commonly known as all systems glow." You dork. But Kiyoshi says, "I feel like I'm stronger now." Then there is a big old shriek. And Nehan realizes, like, why is there a holy waterfall here? Oh, Jack Joe, poor guy.
Rough times.
Holy water.
Yeah.
Bad times. Then he gets grabbed by the mouth and tossed out of it. As it turns out, Tsurugi Hijiri is here. Gaspa! And he's like, "You two shouldn't be running around. It's dangerous." He points to a no running sign. Hey, so he's now that we know that this is one of Sakaki's allies, we're going to have him be less of a jerk, it seems like.
Makes sense.
Sosuke is there as well. He says to Kiyoshi, "I'm not going to lose to you still." He is in a kiddie pool with a bunch of rubber duckies. Good for him.
Aww.
Akari is there, and Mako runs into her boobs. And Mako says, "Now, let's not waste any time and jump to our strategy meeting." They're throwing a party. They're throwing a party with drinks and stuff. There's, like, they're dancing around and eating and everything.
Yeah, they sure are. They're doing all the things that Nick is mentioning.
They're doing those things.
Okay.
Tsurugi and Sakaki have a little conversation on the side. Sakaki says, "Hey, sorry for, like, imposing my whims on you, but, we used to come here a lot when we were a team." And Tsurugi's like, "No, I mean, you dragged me here, but there is something we still need to take care of." And Sakaki says, "Hey, Kiyoshi, come on, let's go. It's training time." And they're going to train via 2-on-2 ping pong with Sosuke and Tsurugi. Yep, that's a chapter.
Yeah, not honestly too much to say on my end. This was a fine chapter, but it's mostly just a bunch of gags and like references to characters, and I'm like, yeah, that was fun, but I don't really like this one. So, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Not a whole lot going on. Marriagetoxin, chapter 110. There's Joshua. All right, everything is okay
He
now.
was just gone. They don't even explain it.
No.
They spend this chapter filling in so many of the holes from like Himikawa's whole thing, and no one ever explains like, where the fuck was Joshua?
I was eating people. Oh, Joshua.
What a little guy.
So Himikawa is in contact with Kitami, who is, catching up with her on certain things. Giro, meanwhile, is in the background feeding shish kebabs to Joshua, who's just having a great time. Good for him.
He's living life.
Kitami brings up that he was contacted by her manager at the job that she was fired from for stealing, and she says that, yeah, she said she miscounted the money and wanted to apologize for her mistake, and if you want to come back, she is willing to return your job. So Himikawa was like, okay, well, I'll think about it then. Goes over to Gero. The two of them get on Joshua and ride him out into the ocean. And she says, like, it's really nice to see the artwork owners happy because, of course, they got all those things they recovered from Dangerous Takarazuka's warehouse,
yes,
or his museum. So they've probably been very busy. She was like, yeah, that guy was, so surprised and stuff. He had lost all hope it was going to be returned to him. And Gero is distracted because we check in more on that conversation he was having with Kinosaki about which he might want to be romantically together with, Himikawa or Arashiyama. And, Kinosaki says, you don't have to, pick one of them right now. You're doing great. You're putting serious thought into your choice. That's way better than just like randomly picking one to satisfy me. But they also say, from now on, I'm not going to secretly tag along with you on your dates.
Nick!
You've got to...
No!
Kinosaki says you've got to face Himekawa on your own so that you can properly bask in all her good qualities. Can you do it? And that does make sense. Like, you can't really pay attention to your partner if you're too busy paying attention to the advice being fed to you by your dating consultants. So,
Yes.
definitely the next graduating step.
Gara also needs to be free of the nest a little bit, you know?
Yes. And Kinosaki needs to not just be his advisor.
Perhaps there's room to be something else?
Himekawa brings up, I wonder where the hell Dangerous went off to, because he told me he wanted to return the treasures with me, but since that day, I haven't heard from him at all.
Getting weird death vibes from him.
Red flags. There is a very creepy face that Garo makes because he is so nervous about the situation and the fact that not that he's on a shark, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that he has to address, this whole, like, I'm trying to figure out if I want to be in a relationship with Himekawa thing, if I want to be more than friends with her. And he says to himself, whenever I think about that, my mind just goes completely blank. And Kinosaki in the past says, like, I mean, this is we're talking about. You'll probably be in a complete panic without me, right? And Garo's just like, yes, I will be, yes. But Kinosaki says, I mean, she's probably going to catch that. So when things get awkward, Garo in the present says, hey, how long do you think you're going to keep returning stolen artworks? And Himekawa says, well, I don't think I'm going to stop until everyone gets back what's been stolen from them. As long as there's someone waiting for me, I'll keep on going.
Aww.
And she starts to then, say, I mean, it's not that serious, but that stops Garo from being nervous. And he crawls up a bit closer to her on Joshua's back and says, you really are amazing. And Kinosaki's advice to him was, praise her hard work. And Kinosaki warned, you ought to be sincere about it, though, because this could backfire. This has to be something that you really admire about her from the bottom of your heart. You never know how happy you can make someone just by letting them know that you understand them. Garo says, look, I've been living in the underworld since I was born. I've seen all sorts of vile criminals, but you're someone who would give everything you have for a stranger. And that made me think, this world isn't too bad after all. And Himekawa starts trying to be like, oh, okay, yeah, trying to it was like, this is too much. There are a lot of people can't take this level of compliments. So Garo says, seeing you in the danger you were in the last incident, it was like 100 million torments for me. So if you ever feel like you'll be facing some real danger from now on, please don't hesitate to ask me for help, okay? This really, really gets her. Really, she can't even look at him.
Yeah.
But she starts to say something, and then she decides not to. She's not ready. So she's like, never mind. I will take your offer, though.
Mm-hmm.
Date's over. Now, she leaves Garo on the shore, rides off on Joshua's back, and Garo's like, oh, I need to improve more. I wasn't ready. Doesn't realize just how well this went, really. Himekawa thinks on one of the last conversations she had with Arashiyama, and how she was like, hey, I'm thinking of asking Garo to return artworks with me. And she was being awkward about it, of course. And Arashiyama said hey, just because we're friends, you don't need to run your plans with Garo by me. I'm going to invite him on dates too. She doesn't say that. She says, I'm going to be going ham on inviting him to dates, which is great. And she says hey, no matter who he ends up with, I'm sure I can be happy for them. He's just that kind of guy. So I do as well think that, of course, this is the Himekawa focus part. So I think that Arashiyama's not being fully honest with herself right here, even though she is saying something very nice and mature. The way she's putting it kind of makes it seem like she's already kind of putting herself out of the race.
This felt like a move to the second tier kind of options or something like that.
Yeah. So it feels like this was not her arc. She was heavily involved in it, but she's going to have her breakthrough too. Anyway, Himikawa was with that, and she thinks to herself, like, he accepted that crazy ideal I had to return literally every stolen piece of artwork to everyone in the world, and he accepted it without a single tinge of insincerity. I can definitely see why a girl as nice as Kimie-san would be attracted to a guy like him. I guess I really do like Garo. And she just thinks that to herself, big 2-page spread, while she's kind of like she's on her bed, you know, curled up on it, but she's on a shark's back riding across the ocean. And so she's like, next time I see him, I should be honest and tell him how I feel. But then she thinks, you know, there's a few things about all this that do bother me.
Now I think about this, there's some unsolved mysteries. What was up with that weird-ass doll?
What was with that doll? Why did my boss, like, just suddenly, like, have a lapse in judgment? Why couldn't I reach Joshua and Kitami and the others? Why was the doll with dangerous Takarazuka? Oh, well, I guess everything's fine now.
Real like, what are you gonna do? Which, hey, I get it, you know? Sometimes you just kind of throw your hands up. You're like, well, whatever happens, happens, I guess.
At that moment, storming across the water behind Himikawa is the doll, who thinks, Kyoko Himekawa, I have now confirmed your feelings towards Hikaru-sama. And it's the Garo family sensei. Going like David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob movie across the ocean. Well, interesting.
Okay. I guess we'll see what that all is about.
What a wild chapter. There's so much like good emotional stuff in it, and then just like that note of like, what the hell is going on?
It's quite a 2-page spread to end a chapter off on.
Yes. Oh my god. Oh, well, we had one great romantic chapter set on the in the water, Quinn. Let's do another. Chapter 78 of New Exorcist. I hate you. So Shiroha is struggling to single-handedly save everyone's asses with her Shikigami and stuff. The water in this weird world is like constantly rising, so there's no land for her to pull them to. She's just in the water with Gakuro, trying to get him to safety. He is unconscious again, by the way. He went unconscious. She brought him back. He's unconscious again, and now he's not even breathing. So Shiroha is just like, okay, he's still alive. And so she says, look, I've put my feelings into words now, so I refuse to let you die. Forgive me. And then she takes him under the water and kisses him. And she thinks, in the darkness of my mind, I was cocooned by a comforting warmth. Oh, wait, that's Gakuro. In the darkness of my mind, I was cocooned by a comforting warmth.
I don't feel like this is either of them. Neither of them, I feel like, would say this sentence. In the darkness of my mind, I was cocooned by a comforting warmth. Like neither of these characters are that linguistically fucking pronounced.
The emotions that flowed into me were sad, though. And for some reason, I found myself crying. And then there's a voice that says, goodbye, Yajima. Wakes up.
I love, this is like the third time she has been like, goodbye, Yajima, and he wakes up and he's like,
he's still there!
You're still there! Excellent!
So, Gakuro comes to, hey, some other exorcists showed up. Oh, they're from the Shiroha family. Well, shit. So, it's Vice Captain Kabane, who Gakuro greets with, why are you here? And then he signals to the 5th branch captain that's there, Itsuki Fujino. And yeah, turns out they're from the Shiroha's family and stuff. And so Captain Fujino says, all right, Shiroha, say your goodbyes. I mean, I just did that while he was out there. Like, say your goodbyes.
She's like, kind of just did, you know, whatever. Thanks for all the sandwich meat, Gakuro. It's been real.
So she's just like, yeah, okay, I'll go with you. And Gakuro says, I'm not letting you take Fujino. He is tied up on the ground, like he's fully restrained. So the vice captain punches him in the head and says, like, yeah, it's no use. I really hate this guy. All All right.
I hate him too. We're all on the
right.
same page.
Just goes on and on about how much Gakuro sucks, basically. He's like, he sucks. He's just a figurehead. Your existence is an insult to every exorcist out there. Just die. Finally, Shiroha gets in the way after about 5 unprotected punches to the face.
I don't even know what she did. It seems like she like flash steps her face, like the side of her head, into the way of one of the punches instead. And I guess she just inserts herself very quickly so the person has to stop. It's just very difficult to tell what actually happened there.
The angles don't even make sense from one panel to the next in terms of the way their 3 bodies are positioned, because it seems like she is largely to the side when she comes in, as if she like shouldered the elbow up, but then she's positioned right in front of his fist the next time. Anyway, bad. So the last guy's like, why the hell are you moving around? We're tools. Don't you understand that? Me, Captain Fujino, even the head of the Fujino family, we're all gears in this fire of the Hyo. And yet you think the smallest, least significant of those gears will be forgiven if she lets her emotions steer her actions? And Shiroha's just like, yeah, sorry. So the vice captain's like, shut up! And then there's a very long sequence of her standing up and walking away that really didn't need to be drawn this way.
It's very confusing because Gakuro just immediately punched his way out, and I was like, did she do something to assist in that, or did we just watch her get up and walk away for dramatic effect?
Yeah, I think she spends like 10 seconds slowly getting up and walking away, and then Gakuro's like, that thing you said made me angry!
Hi-ya! Man,
Punches the best.
Gakuro would be a lot better if he just had like a pathetic Miss Piggy sound to him every time he tries to fight, like, hi-ya!
Steno dark! So he says, hey, Fujino doesn't belong to the Fujino family anymore. You gotta start calling her Shiroha if you're gonna talk about the Fujino family that much, my dude. You gotta just stop saying that. And he said, you don't have any right to decide that she's a tool. So, oh, my head. Oh. Gets all woozy. He's out of power and stuff. Then, the captain again is like, oh my god, let's go. Then, Shiroha turns to Gakuro and says, Yajima, I hated you. You're a meddler, annoying, weak, and unreliable. You're bad at talking. You're ugly. You smell.
You smell. No one likes you. You don't clean up your room. You're bad at video games. You suck at deck building. Your hair's always stupid.
Hey, I can understand you calling me weak and annoying. I'm not that bad at cleaning my room, though.
Like, even like the other Fujino people are like, girl, calm down. We're not killing him. You can let him live.
Yes, he uses a deck assist to build all of his decks, but it's okay. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, sometimes you just net deck. It's just, it works for him.
She says, you're a captain, but you have no dignity. I hate you from the bottom of my heart. I never want to see your face again. Goodbye. So they're like, wow, that was pretty awesome the way you did all that.
They're like, it was real cool of you calling him a big, stupid loser baby for a while.
Yeah, they do obviously know, it's like, I mean, we know that you did that so that he won't come after you, obviously. And she says, when I'm considerate, it always backfires. If it does, though, I don't know what I'll do. As in, I guess, like, if this doesn't stop him from coming after me, I don't know what I'm going to do. Which is probably the only, like, good bit of her character that happens in this one chapter. Because, God, she kind of sucks in this. It's really annoying. Gakuro is literally dragging his bleeding carcass to try and come after Shiroha. Like, I'll save you! Well, okay. Guess that you didn't do anything.
I mean, we all knew it wouldn't. I don't know why we're doing this. This is so confusing to me. Like, people have brought it up in our Discord where they're like, didn't Shiroha overcome this issue?
Yes!
Like, didn't she realize she doesn't have to do this? Like, not only did she have that revelation, it felt like several chapters ago with Rito, it happened before that when she fought What's-Her-Face during the last arc. So you're just like...
I'm my own person now, and I'm willing to, like, have my own will and do things for myself. And at least there should have been an examination where she said, I thought I could do that, but it turns out it's hopeless.
Or have someone actively kidnap her. Like, have it be...
No, I guess I'll go with you.
Yeah, I'm like, it's this weird, like, Rukia, like, you have to honorably go away thing.
Speaking of which, like, this is such a Rukia thing. It's like Gakuro left bleeding and broken and still coming after. And, by the way... such a fucking Wish version of that entire sequence.
I will say, this is not as good as, obviously, what Bleach did with Rukia, but the one advantage I will say is that this series has the chance to, like, fix something from Bleach, which is, if you're going to do this, then make those characters have, like, a real... like, if there's romantic stakes in there, you could do something with that. You know, that was obviously the thing Bleach didn't do with Rukia, and then... just didn't really land it the other way. Like, you could have been like, oh, no, that was their platonic way, but no, he just has a much more boring love interest to get with.
Absolutely, this does feel... because, I mean, look, the thing I've always said is, like, I found the Rukia-Ichigo relationship to be much more interesting. Reflecting on it, there really was never any sense even implied that there was romantic stuff between them. They just had a strong relationship. Shiroha has just confessed her love to Gakuro.
Yes.
If these two aren't endgame after this, what the fuck are you doing?
I also just need to note, because I'm in such a weird state. I'm like, was the plot of this series right now not that a new level 4 just showed up based off of one of the Hyo? And they're
we
like,
have to work with Rito. It's very essential that we do that.
We have to work with Rito. And Rito put up a thing where he's like, all right, well, in a week, you have to confess who you love to me at a festival. And I'm like, so wait, is this whole shit gonna go in before that?
Oh, yeah. Quinn, this is all getting resolved within 1 week in universe. Ain't no way we're spending a massive training arc where Gakuro unlocks his inner hollow and then goes to Soul Society and spends months of publication going through it. We are going to be wrapped up in this by, I'm going to say, chapter 100 at the very latest.
Whoa,
there is no way that this is going to be a protracted sequence.
All right. That's a strong statement.
I said chapter 100. If it's not resolved by chapter 85, I'll be surprised.
Okay.
Like, God.
So, yeah. Not a great series. But it's fun to laugh at. I did enjoy the series works when characters just beat up Gakuro. And I love that there was one dude who's just like, I fucking hate this guy. Wham, wham, wham. And of course it's drawn in a shitty way where it doesn't make sense. That's part of the charm of this series.
Oh my God. All right, let's do Akane-banashi. Story 138, Chance to Shine. Hey, it's the show's first performance on stage. There is a nice little note that, like, hey, Urara's in the crowd. There she is. And he thinks to himself, it's been 2 years that I've been preparing for this. Time for it. The crowd, a lot of people are very bored at the start. There's a couple of very non-invested faces. Isho performs Time Soba for his first performance, which is the story that, Karasuke performed. Kiroku Kashiwaya.
Yes.
That's it. So Kiroku performed that, of course, earlier on. So Isho is doing that. The Shiguma comes over to Kiroku. He's like still recovering from the conversation that he, butted in on, which Isho doesn't know about. That whole thing involving Kiroku and Miroku. And Shiguma agreed to like keep it a secret from him. Kiroku encourages him, like, hey, look, you're gonna watch your older brother apprentice for show, just being all sad and thinking about other stuff. Worry about that later. Let's enjoy this. This is his chance to shine. What a good mentor he is.
Yes.
Isho remembers some advice that he got from Kiroku, which is like, hey, look, the story is about a guy who is flattering a soba cook to distract him from the fact that he's shortchanging him. So you'll get a bit of applause while you're acting out eating the soba sometimes, but that's not really the important part. You got to focus on the rhythm of the compliments. And so Isho goes through that. He's got, his banter going on. But while he's doing it, he thinks about the way that Kiroku would talk to Kyoe. while at the soba place and uses that and reflects on his experience actually working in the soba store. Thinks about those memories together and how they're overlapping. And he thinks, I had nothing in my life at a certain point, but through the filter of Rakugo, it is elevated into art. And by the end of his performance, people are enraptured the same way that they were when Kiroku performed the story. Which, you know, like Kiroku says, look, it ain't that important in the big scheme of things, but it feels pretty good to be showered in applause. And sure enough, you know, when people start, you know, applauding for him, Isho gets this, like, look on his face that we have never seen him have before. Like, this look of, like, surprised happiness.
Joy.
Like,
I'm experiencing
this is
joy in my life.
what it feels to feel good. And I love that we see shots of Urara and Kyoya in the crowd, and Urara's like, oh, wow. And Kyoya's just happy for her. She's crying in happiness for this kid that, you know, she took in and stuff. It's nice.
Yeah.
Isho gets backstage, and we don't see any of the exchange that happens, but Miroku is there. He's very pissed, and Shigema is crying over what happens, and we don't get to see even if Shigema did even get to perform at all. It seems like he didn't, because it seems like Miroku just put a stop to everything then and there. And they were expelled from the school immediately. Isho confronts Kuroko afterwards and, like, you know, grabs him like he's gonna beat him up. And he's like, what are you thinking? You could have been Miroku. We wanted that to happen. Why'd you get sidetracked? And Kuroko says, you want me to cut my own apprentices loose so I can bask in greater fame for myself. But I never get a good night's sleep again.
That's a real guy right there. I like that. I like that mentality.
And Isho doesn't have an answer for it. He's like, but how? How can you just give it all up? And Kuroko says, so what now? We're back to having nothing again. Not even a name this time. But he just spreads his arms and he laughs. And he says, if it's gone, we just give ourselves a new one. And so we see Shigema Arakawa up on the wall, one with some other names, as of course, you know, we know how this all turned out. And narration says this is how the very first story reaches its conclusion. Which, that's interesting wording. I wonder if that means that Urara's like, all right, that's chapter 1. I'll tell you the rest some other time. Like,
she has to. I'll be honest, as much as I like this flashback is enjoyable, I am, like, craving to get to back to characters that I like the story at hand. Like, I'm desperately like, I need to see what happens with Akane. This is all cool, but a break, please. Intermission.
Yeah, nice chapter, but I do agree this feels like a very natural stopping point for this story. You can come back to it later. I mean, I'm sure it could be good if we just strove on with this and just got it all out of the way. But it feels like the right time to just like, all right, let's go back now.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna go through One Piece chapter 1133 nice things pretty quickly here. So cover page looks like we got to fight Hold'em because he's a bad dude and he tries to attack a child. Not a good dude. Go into a flashback from 22 years ago during the Ohara stuff. People are talking about how, short flashback about how Robin is an awful human being. This little girl who killed so many people, all the people on the ship who burned alive because of her ability, and everyone in the world is like, I hate her. This little girl, she's freaky. I wish she would just die already. And Robin is standing at the edge of a cliff and is reminded of her mom telling her to live. And reminded of Saul as he was seemingly dying, saying, look, you're alone right now, but without a doubt, one day you will meet friends. And, you know, in that moment, she's crying because she's like, I'm trying, Saul, but everyone's so scared of me. And she just has to remember that when it's unbearable, remember what I taught you. Just a laugh like this. Darishishi. And she is doing it. She is doing her silly laugh as people scream at her that they wish she would die, and she should go away forever, and she's an evil monster.
Yeah.
Cut back.
It's a very sad moment because she's laughing, her face is like forced into a smile, and it's like it's not a real smile. It's very sad.
But you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. In the present, all the Straw Hats reunite in this big moment. It's very, very cool. They get to see Haruden and the rest of the new giant pirates, and that's really great. And they're going to have a gigantic celebration, a big feast. Haruden talks about how this is like, they just got the big news about how you defeated Big Mom over in Wano, which is very funny to me. No one involved in defeating Big Mom is in this situation right now, but whatever.
Yeah, they don't know that, though.
Yeah. Umagerd is like, I was friends with Lin Lin a long time ago until she fucked up things in Elbath. But they're like, hey, yeah, you're going to have this big giant feast. But Robin says something. We don't see exactly what it is. But now all of the Straw Hats are with Robin. And she's like, I can go on my own. And all of them are like, fuck no, that's not what's going to happen. Luffy explains, the thing about being captain is that you have to pay your respects to anybody who's ever helped out your crew. And Robin's like, where'd you learn that? He's like, it's the honorable thing. Duh, dope. So Dory and Bragi are like, hey, we'll prepare a great feast for you when you return. But this is very, very important. So they go to this place, the Warriors Spring, and by that is the Owl Library, and that's where Saul...
What a cool fucking location that is right there. The waterfalls, and the fact that it's just all on this, like, branch, it seems, from the tree. Very cool.
Very, very cool. They get there. Robin's like, oh my god, my heart is racing. There's a moment where Luffy tries to run ahead and like...
Let's go find him and talk to him before Robin.
Nami grabs him by the face and is like, this is Robin's moment. Get the fuck out of here. But there's a moment where somebody's like, no, it's something's happened. Dr. Saul, he's fallen and he won't get up. And there was a moment I had real... like meta whiplash, because Sanji says this is a reunion we've been waiting 22 years in the making for, and I was like, has it been 22 years? And then I realized he meant in real world it has been 22 years, but in our world it has been pretty close to 22 years as well. So Robin just starts laughing, and she's like, oh, you fool, I'll be fine, I'll go on my way. And everyone's like, are you sure? And she just says, I got nervous for nothing. And she walks up to Saul, and she says, her big smile on her face, and Saul's face down. He's like, rah! And does his little laugh. He's like, did I shock you? And he remembers what a young Robin did during that with like a blank expression. Now he sees her with a big smile, and he's like, oh, Robin.
Well, it's a muted smile, but it's a smile.
Yeah,
it's a real smile.
Yes.
It's not a forced one. So.
He says, oh, I guess you're not a kitten anymore. But he's like, yep, I still don't know how to laugh. I still do my whole deri shi thing. But you remind me of Olivia. You look so much like her. And, he's reminded, and he gets asked about the message. He's like, well, I was here on the island. I couldn't really make it out, but I had to learn for the paper. And, when he said that history is told by the winners, I mean, those words came from Ohara. If they were left to be buried in history, they would have vanished without being heard. The scholars of Ohara sent out their voices. And Vegapunk's a scientist. He doesn't speak on good and evil, but he gave his life to pass those voices on, and that's a huge step forward for everything. It means a big change for the future. It's very, very sweet. And Robin, who's being held up to his face at this point, touches his wounds and says, you're sacrificed too. Does it hurt? And we get the explanation that he's like, yeah, I can't believe I lived either. I was frozen solid, but I guess the island being on fire kind of melted me out. But I didn't.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense when you put it that way, huh?
Yeah. Kind of works. But he's like, I didn't find out you were alive until a lot later. Oh, and the things they said about you, it made me so mad.
So cute.
And Robin kind of shakes her head. And she's like, I don't want to talk about the bad things. Instead, I want to hear all the nice things about how I survived. And Saul kind of gives her like a hug. And he's like, yeah, it's crazy. A kid like you on run from the entire world. And then he just opens up. He says, bless you for being alive, Robin. 22 whole years. Bless you for surviving. Bless you for coming to see me. And Robin is just embracing this guy. And she's thinking, why do I have to live anyway, and back in the past? I just want to die. I want to die. And in the present, you can see she starts tearing up. And our chapter ends with two panels, one of Saul and one of Robin, as they're both crying and hugging each other and saying how much they miss one another. And then most of the Straw Hats turning away to cry. It is it's worth noting that Luffy's just smiling and watching, and Zoro and Jinbei had the sense of self to stoically respond to this. Everyone else is like, God damn, this is so beautiful.
I'm sure that Jinbei is like, this is a very nice moment. And Zoro's like, there's nothing to cut here. He's like, yeah. You lost everything. You were on the run for years. Did your best friend fall downstairs? I don't think so.
Has your best friend ever fallen downstairs? You don't know my pain then.
I do love the entire last page there, the emotional reunion at the top, all the Straw Hats, with a few exceptions, crying, and then just Luffy being like, this is great. Yeah. Just being happy for his crewmate. It's good.
Very, very sweet stuff.
We made it to the end, Quinn.
Yes. Sorry, everybody, for a very long episode. Or thank you. I don't know. I love this week of manga, but my favorite and MVP have been locked in. Unfortunately, I'm a One Piece girly. It's One Piece, and it's Robin. I don't know how it could be anything else. I sobbed reading that chapter.
I definitely understand you fully 100% on that. I am going to say Ichi the Witch, because of course
fair.
I am.
That's fair. Nick has his favorites.
And I think I'm also, however, going to say Robin, because although she doesn't really do a lot in this chapter, this is a Robin chapter just to establish, like, this is where she was and this is where she is now, in terms of not just what we have seen of her, in her flashback in Married Now, but also where she was upon her introduction in the story compared to now.
I mean, it says so much to get to see a character grow and change. And even though nothing has changed with Robin since like Enos Lobby necessarily or anything like that, it means a lot to see her get to show somebody who she knew before all the stuff with the Straw Hats, somebody who saw her kind of when shit was breaking bad, and to have that comfort of being like, I survived. Like, I did what you said, and I get to have this very beautiful moment as the result of that effort. That's the kind of stuff that, like, I don't know how you don't cry to that, to be honest.
Also, just something has to be said that, Robin has always been, like, the most understated member of the crew. And there's been that, like, clear, like, kind of humming thing going on with her in the last several chapters where she's like, I'm going to see Saul again. And she's not, like, totally, like, bouncing off the walls or anything. She's still very Robin in terms of, like, oh, I'm going to do this. But she's also, you can see the excitement inside of her. She's like, I want my hair done the way that it was when he knew me and stuff.
Hey, we're not going to do this feast. I'm going to go head straight over to Saul.
And she keeps it together for so much of the conversation. Like, this is great. And then, of course, she can't hold it together. Like, this means too much for her to just, like, speak with that, that stoic, content smile. And it all does come out of her. And it makes it mean even more because you saw her up to that point where she was like, yes, this is going to be great. Yeah. And then you see it all come boiling out of her. So this was a very lovely reunion, and it was nice to see something in a One Piece flashback have a happy ending. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, so absolutely with you on Robin, but Ichi the Witch, great chapter. Love the action in it, just the way that entire second half of it goes down. Love all the moving parts and the excitement that it's boiling up for next time. I do want to say, by the way, a few people I've seen say, I hope Kamugi gets the Kindake mushroom. I am with that. Like, I hope that, like, because of that, there's, like, a weird resolution to the contest, because Ichi's distracted by this other magic that's coming. It'd be weird if he just, like, claimed both, which I don't think is going to happen with the second one at all anyway. Like, I don't think he's going to beat...
You don't think he's going to beat Jack Magic?
Jack Magic?
Yeah, I don't know. We got to give him a name. Chad Magic?
Jack Magic.
Chad Magic. Austin Magic.
Chad Magic's so much worse than Jack Magic. That's gonna do it, everyone, for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you for joining us here on the show.
By the way, One Piece, one chapter of the week for the audience, and Robin, one character of the week for the audience. So they're net.
Thank you for joining us for the show. We record here on twitch.tv/RelloT Wednesday evenings, usually starting around 7:30 Eastern time. But if you want to know when we go live, you can do a couple of things. You can click on the Discord link, which will be provided wherever this gets posted. Join our community there, and we will hit the chat room when we're going live. But also, we are on social media. We're on BlueSky. I'm Nick F. Time. She is RelloT, and also runs the Weekly Manga Recap BlueSky account, where we're getting a little bit more activity on there as to promote when the show is going live and just various manga thoughts and stuff. We want to thank Milo Jack Stillitz and Wednesday Cheddar for creating the opening sequence of the video version of Weekly Manga Recap that gets posted to YouTube, youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. Also occasionally has title cards done by Steve Man. You can search for his art just by searching for Steve Man Art all together. I'm so tired. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap if you want to support the show a little bit financially and also get some bonus content. Quinn and I recently recorded a conversation where she told me all about the first incarnation of the New Mutants, the X-Men offshoot. Had some weird notes come up about a few of the weird characters in that group, some of which are more memorable than others.
Yes.
I'm remembering that there was a guy who did nothing, basically. So.
Whoa, hey! Cypher eventually is a very important character.
You knew who I was talking about!
There's only one character who really does nothing in the New Mutant stories. Or at least one guy.
Check out that if you want to. And, of course, you would also help financially support the show, which we would very much appreciate. Ninja X3I, thank you for supporting the Google Doc and maintaining all that stuff so that we can keep track of recommendations, such as the one that we will be taking for next time. I couldn't think of one, so we're gonna do Pokemon Adventures, everybody. We're going back to it.
It's time for our yearly Pokemon's JoJo Bizarre Adventures, except it's just
there's no JoJo left, basically.
Well, there is still JoJo left.
But...
I've been waiting to see if we get any announcement about a part 7, and we're not. Right. So I'll probably just move along into. I know it's getting a manga adaptation, like it's getting officially translated.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think an anime is coming at this point.
For the record, by the way, it's Oris this time. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So I think it's only like 3 volumes this stretch. So it probably won't actually take us that long to get through
it. Is there a? Are they still making the manga? Like, is there a Scarlet Violet one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know anything about it. There's like no information about it at all, but I know that that's what it's on, like the Japanese version.
Gotcha. So. I keep hearing word that there's like rumors it's happening in 2025, but until something happens, I don't know if I can believe it. So.
Oh, for JoJo.
Yeah, for JoJo. Sorry. But yeah, all right, we're gonna continue our adventure. I wonder if this explains any of the weird characters that were introduced in that game. We'll find out, I guess. But.
Yeah, because there was quite a bit that actually, like, lore got dropped in that version of the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of extra stuff in that. So, all right, that's going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Do you have a thought you want to close out on?
I'm just looking at the words Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire right now, so I can't even say the words right. What's going on with me? Quinn! I can't say words!
Oh, well, we're gonna put some pills into Nick, and he's gonna be right as rain for next time.
Mong.
Yep, he's out. He can't even pod smash anymore. So we're gonna disappear. Goodbye, everybody.
Very good.